Welcome to Applebee's. Can I interest you in America's favorite boneless wings for just 50 cents each?
I'll have the 50-cent bone.
Cover your mouth. They could steal your order.
I'll have the 50-cent boneless wings.
I'll have the same.
Perfect. They'll never see it coming.
She was born, we had that minute of relief, and I was just worried all over again.
What is she supposed to be doing?
So many parents are overwhelmed.
My wife turned her phone towards me and she's like, hey, there's this company called Lovevery.
This just gives us almost like a play-by-play.
They make these boxes with playthings and parent guides.
Brings us closer together.
Lovevery products are different.
When you get your box, it's customized. He has so much energy, but he focuses. Who knew?
And on a Sunsplash Saturday afternoon, we welcome you to historic Nippert Stadium. Here come the Bearcats in the River City rivalry. Dates all the way back to 1921. Pittsburgh comes to town for this ACC Big 12 clash. So glad you could join us. Beautiful conditions. Fall is in the air here in the Queen City. With Sam Acho, I'm Roy Philpott. Taylor Davis joins us in just 1 minute. A pair of undefeated teams here today. Acho playing some good football to start 2024.
And teams with a little bit of history. These teams have history. Last year they played. Cincinnati ran for over 200 yards. Pitt remembers that. And so there's some new players we're going to talk about, but there's history that still remains.
All kinds of history to talk about. And speaking of transfers, the quarterback position, it's a common theme in college football this year. We've got some new signal callers for both sides in Eli Holstein and Brendan Sorsby and what they bring to the table.
And they bring different things to the table. Talk about Holstein. Holstein's more of a passer. Had 40 passes last week, 30 for 40. Where Sorsby can run the ball a bit. He had 2 passing touchdowns, but 2 rushing touchdowns in the red zone. And so they both are effective quarterbacks, but they do it a little bit differently when they're in the pocket.
Now, the rookie of the week in the ACC, newcomer of the week in the Big 12. Similar builds as well between these two, coming in from Alabama and Indiana respectively.
Similar builds physically, but also mentally they have the same makeup. These are both confident kids. We talked with Brendan Sorsby yesterday, and he talked about how he loves even running the football, putting his shoulder down, because his offensive linemen love it. We didn't get a chance to talk to Eli, but we watched his tape, and it stands out.
Well, we've got an important, rather large update for Cincinnati on the defensive side of the ball. TD, what do you have?
Yeah, Roy, Cincinnati welcomes the return of All-American defensive tackle Dante Corleone, who's been dealing with blood clots found in his lungs back in June, but has been medically cleared to return to play here today. Now, he has continued to train with his teammates, but was removed from full collision. He actually just tackled for the first time this past Tuesday. I'm told the medical staff has a plan in place to monitor him throughout the game, specifically against this Pitt offense. But guys, he's known as the Godfather, so this is one he can't refuse.
That's exactly right. Dante Corleone, a disruptor, an All-American 2 years ago, All Big 12 last year.
And for how big he is, he's 6'1", 320 pounds. He's very, very quick, so he's hard to move in the run game, but then you'll find him in the backfield disrupting quarterbacks. Dante Corleone is a leader of this defense, vocally, physically, and emotionally as well.
Capacity crowd expected, set and ready to go. Pitt won the coin toss and deferred. Ben Shaw set to kick it away, back deep to receive Logan Wilson. And a touchback will bring it out to the 25. As we take a look at our impact players, brought to you by Cracker Barrel.
We're going to start with Des Reed. Des Reed transferred from Western Carolina. He's 5'8", 175, but he's extremely explosive, averaged 6.9 yards per carry last year. Gavin Bartholomew on the Mackey Award watch list, an effective tight end. And we talked about it, the Godfather, Don Corleone. Big, strong, physical. But the other tight end you need to know, Joe Royer for Cincinnati. He can do it all. 6'5", 255, great in the blocking game, but he's an extremely effective player when it comes to receiving.
Bearcats a convincing win against Towson a week ago. The sidearm delivery is there to Royer, the tight end, spun down at the 26. Brendan Sorsby, originally from Denton, Texas, down at Lake Dallas High School, your neck of the woods, Acho. And wearing number 2, successful end of the year last year in Bloomington. The record didn't really speak to his overall production.
The leadership did, though. The record may not have spoke to it. There were a lot of one-score games last year, but he had offers when he went to the transfer portal. He chose Cincinnati because of the offense and the coaching staff.
Load up the backfield on second down. And the handoff over the left side is Corey Kiner. First down yardage crossing the 35. Give him 11.
I'm not going to say this is deja vu, but if you go back and watch this game last year, this is what Cincinnati did. Outside zone or even zone cut. You're running the ball towards the outside and you're asking your running back to find a gap, find a hole. That's what Kiner was able to do extremely effectively.
Only 7 touches a week ago for the LSU transfer and Cincinnati native. Another touch here, and he's trying to get lathered up, a gain of 3. Nick James with a tackle.
One thing to notice when you watch Cincinnati on offense is which direction is the running back going. The play we call it is outside zone. So you're running towards the outside, but his job, whatever running back is in the backfield, is to find a hole and cut vertically quickly. And so that's what I'm looking for when this offense is on the field.
Officially a gain of 2. Off a play action, pass is caught, another first down. Burkhalter racing into plus territory and a gain of 14. Second season for Scott Satterfield, coming in from Louisville. Quite familiar to recruiting the great state of Ohio. And he is charged with the rebuild after a playoff appearance in the AAC 3 years ago for the Bearcats. Disappointing first campaign at 3-9 last year. They overhauled the roster in the offseason. Here's Evan Pryor, the Ohio State transfer. To the edge and barreled down quickly by Javon McIntyre. Another 3-yard gain.
That wasn't the outside zone by a handoff, but it was the same type of offensive line movement. The offensive line is essentially running horizontally, and the running back says, no matter where the gap is, I'm going to find it and get vertical. That was a relatively good stop by Pitt. We know they love to blitz, and so let's see if you can crease them on offense.
Panthers show 6. And they'll bring 5. Time for Sorsby. He'll step up and throw it away. Well, a heads-up play to avoid the sack. Rashad Battle applying the quarterback pressure that time.
That's what Pitt does. Pitt applies pressure. Now it's 3rd down, 3rd and 7. Pitt is going to bring pressure whether 1st, 2nd, or 3rd down. They have exotic blitzes. What Cincinnati and Brendan Sorsby need are answers to those blitzes.
Bearcats 43% on 3rd down a year ago. 7th play of the drive upcoming. Empty backfield for Sorsby. Sensing backside pressure, down he goes. Way back at the 48, Sincere Edwards. Now the first-year player from Orlando in a loss of 6 and a drive stopper.
And that wasn't even an exotic blitz. What happened was you saw inside pressure, if you will. Inside linebackers were stepped up on the inside, but instead of blitzing, they dropped back into coverage. That left a defensive end wide open, essentially unblocked. Sincere Edwards was unblocked on the edge. And so when you bring a lot of pressure, offense says, okay, how do we move? Where do we go? And then you make it very simple and force a sack.
Mason Fletcher to punt things away for the Bearcats. Des Reed back deep to receive. Western Carolina transfer. Call for the fair catch as the punt bounces into the end zone. For the touchback. Well, a 50-yard punt means Eli Holstein take over at his own 20-yard line. It's part of that Alabama quarterback competition 2 springs ago with Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, redshirted last year in Tuscaloosa. Acho, he wanted a fresh start. He found one in the Steel City last week.
But he also learned a lot from his time in Alabama. He learned from Jalen Milroe, learned how to play into the playoffs, learn what it's like to take care of your body, the ups and the downs. So he's coming in with not experience on the field, but the mental experience of how to succeed as a quarterback.
Nippert comes to life. They'll flip it to Bartholomew, the tight end, to the edge. Gavin Bartholomew picks up a first down and a crafty play on first down. The call coming in from Cade Bell, the new offensive coordinator, and a gain of 13.
Gavin Bartholomew is an athletic tight end, but I noticed one thing. He didn't cut inside, he went to the outside. I'll be looking for that versus this defense.
They'll want to snap it within 7 seconds. Wide open crease for Des Reed. 5'8", $175. He rumbles into Cincinnati territory and a gain of 23.
And what you saw there is Gavin Bartholomew in the blocking game, not just passing, but blocking as well.
Play action, Holstein to the air. And the out pattern unavailable for Kenny Johnson, leading receiver a week ago.
This defense, led by Tyson Vite, is a 3-3-5 defense. What happens is, if you're not good on the edges, outside linebackers, you'll give up creases on the outside. I don't expect inside runs, but on the outside, Pitt is going to try to attack.
Fake it to Reed. Holstein, the slant incomplete. Johnson saw that pass sail right behind his back shoulder. Jordan Young in coverage. Cade Bell, 31 years old, comes in from the Southern Conference at Western Carolina. Quite a story to tell. We'll get deeper into it as we get deeper into this game. But aggressive will be a common theme today for Pitt's offense. Holstein steps up. On the move. Pass is caught. That's a first down. Mumfield reels it in. Kanate picks up 15 on 3rd and long.
Kanate Mumfield is a team captain for this team. He fumbled a punt last week, and so you wonder, is there a lack of trust? No, there's a high level of trust in Mumfield, especially when it comes to his quarterback.
Reed again. A jump cut, shifts to his right. 3-yard gain on first down. Boy, every time Reed touches it, you feel like something special could happen.
He's an explosive running back. He's explosive when it comes to the return game. I played special teams a lot in the NFL, and coaches would say about guys like him, he's got elite juice. That means every time he touches the ball, something special can happen.
Fake it to Reed. Holstein wants it all. Post pattern is picked off in the end zone. Josh Minkins reels it in, the Louisville transfer.
One of the great things about this defense is that there's an extra middle field safety. Well, Minkins was that safety, and he made a great play.
Putting together a party for Frank Moulton, the Black Godfather. I'm thinking Black Vegas.
Groovy, baby.
I don't think you got any idea who you stealing from. These is heavy hitters that they rob.
Stealing from me? Y'all going home in a box.
The Play Kits by Lovevery are here to help with every milestone from ages 0 to 5. Delivered just in time for each stage of development. The Play Kits will be there to help your babies learn to roll over on the day they take their first steps, on the day they say their first word, on their first time helping out. There's something for every milestone. Try the Play Kits by Lovevery, designed by experts for your child's developing brain.
Nippert Stadium, the centerpiece of campus, and Cincinnati Bearcats. The lead-in, the build-up. Sorsby and company getting ready for the River City rivals through the tunnel. And today, yes indeed, they give their all. Beautiful conditions. Fall-like weather this morning. We woke up to 51 degrees. A crispness that you don't see a lot this time of year in these parts. Corey Kiner, another big gainer. Well, Cincinnati on the ground a year ago. The difference in Pittsburgh, a gain of 28 more for number 21.
Corey Kiner ran for over 1,000 yards last season. The same type of offense what we saw last year is what we see this year. Run to the outside, find the hole, get vertical. Now what makes it special is you have to make someone miss in the defensive backfield. It's one thing to get 5 yards, but can you turn 5 to 50? That's what we've seen from Kiner in the Cincinnati offense.
3 carries, 41 yards after 7 touches for 51 last week. The numbers there, Bearcats want to run it. Pryor brought down by Biles at the line.
One way to stop this offense that we've been talking about is you have to be strong on the edges. So the defensive ends have to be able to set the edge and force the ball back inside. We're not seeing that yet. That'll have to be the difference if the Cincinnati run offense is going to be slowed down.
That was Kiner on the carry. Cincinnati native, Roger Bacon High School. After beginning his college football career in Baton Rouge. Play action, Sorsby off the back foot, floats it. 2 receivers in the area. Royer was running, and the pressure coming in from Kyle Lewis.
Miscommunication, because he had Royer open if he wanted him, but he was a little bit confused either by the defense and maybe even by that pressure as well by Lewis. See Lewis get past on the inside, and when you're a quarterback feeling that pressure, it's hard to step and follow through on your pass, and that could have been why that pass was inaccurate.
Pat Narduzzi, the head coach, of course, year 10 in the Steel City, known for applying pressure. Brings 6, a 3 deep, 2 underneath. Couldn't do it last year, trying to get back to those ways this year. And the pass is caught, tiptoeing down the sideline. The touchdown to Jamoy Mays from 52 yards out.
If there were ever a game plan that you'd want to start if you're Cincinnati, this is it. Turnover on defense, leading to offense. You saw the time in the pocket, and Mays gets pushed out of bounds, gets back in bounds. You could see the defensive back. Andy believed that, okay, the play's going to be over, no issues, but Mays kept on running, and a perfect pass by the quarterback.
Somehow stayed in bounds. 3rd catch of the year for the transfer from Chattanooga. They're going to double check to make sure that he didn't tap dance on that sideline. We'll take one more look ourselves.
Toe tapping down the sideline. It looks as if he stays in all the way through.
Indisputable video evidence. Nothing we saw there would indicate that that call should be overturned. And it will not be. Here's Carter Brown. Now both teams moving the football efficiently to start, but it's the Bearcats that strike first. UC's won the last 3 matchups against Pitt. Well, they missed their connection last week in the win against Towson. A different story today, Acho.
When you have pressure and you don't get home, you're playing one-on-one, Jamoy Mays will make you pay.
Welcome to Applebee's. Can I interest you in America's favorite boneless wings for just 50 cents each?
I'll have the 50-cent bone.
Cover your mouth. They could steal your order.
I'll have the 50-cent boneless wings.
I'll have the same.
Perfect. They'll never see it coming.
Are you sick and tired of buying your child toys that they're bored of after 5 minutes? You need the Play Kits by Lovevery. Lovevery Play Kits are designed by experts for your child's developing brain, and they are packed with playthings that can be used in endless ways. The Play Kits are designed to spark your child's natural curiosity, free of flashing lights and recorded noises that become boring fast, and built to last through years of play, even as they grow. The Play Kits are the only toys you need. Learn more at lovevery.com.
ESPN College Football is brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone.
Well, historic Nippert Stadium, originally constructed back in 1915, third oldest NCAA FBS stadium. And through the years, they will celebrate their 100th year of playing football here. Anniversary coming up in early November, later this season. Home to the Cincinnati Bengals, as well as an expansion franchise back in the late 1960s. And UC has been playing football here of some kind since the early 1900s. And a look at Dearly Vocal Arts Center. That's the building you saw in those early pictures, well over a century old. We're told the basketball court inside once was the practice home of the great Oscar Robertson. Sandy Koufax came to UC originally to play basketball, if you can believe that. Back to live action, the ensuing kickoff, and Pitt, Kenny Johnson will bring it back after a 21-yard return. And now here comes Eli Holstein. His head coach, Pat Narduzzi, year 10, 66 wins. He's won an ACC championship. He was properly caffeinated in our conversation yesterday, Acho.
I don't know if that was caffeine or just personality. I think he has that in his veins. Pat Narduzzi is passionate, to put it lightly, but he tells the truth, and I think his players love that the most. He's going to keep it 100.
He's got an old school personality, but he's adapted, I think, quite well to the new NIL transfer portal era that we're in. Another touch for Des Reed, bolting across the right side, still on his feet. Again, the small in stature nature of the running back, but powerful when he gets a full head of steam. 14 more there.
Explosive is the word that comes to mind when you watch Des Reed. Physical, tough, all those things. Explosive, that's the word.
Dance across the right side, a punishing finish. Gain of 6 more. Josh Meekins, who had the interception on Pitt's first drive, with a tackle. Cade Bell told us it's 7 seconds of hell in between the individual snaps. That's how fast they want to go. Holstein steps up in the pocket, fires a strike. Poppy Williams. And the Western Carolina connection continues. 12 more.
Yeah, but great job by Meekins, just going back to some of his defense. So Gavin Bartholomew was the primary target. Holstein saw that he was covered by Meekins, so he went to a secondary target. Great read by Holstein, even better coverage by Meekins.
Sounds like a linebacker talking right there. Inside give. Gain of 4. Cincinnati, the defense back on its heels again. Approaching 6 to play in the first. Holstein wants to run it. Haven't seen a lot of that in the first 2 games. Spun down, it'll be 3rd and short. Jared Bartlett, transfer from West Virginia, stopped him 1 yard shy of first down yardage.
These are wins for Cincinnati's defense. This defense is a bend but don't break defense. So a 3-yard gain, a 4-yard gain, they'll do that all day. Just keep them out of the end zone.
There goes Reed. Needed 1, he'll gain 4. Acho, you played linebacker in the NFL and in Texas back in the day. What makes it so difficult to tackle a smaller running back like Des Reed?
It's not his size, Roy. It's his explosiveness. He has this move, I call it a dead leg. He'll look like he's going one way, then all of a sudden he'll put his foot in the ground and burst through the hole. You don't know which direction he's going to go, so it's not that he's necessarily small, it's how explosive and quick he is that makes him hard to bring down.
Dexter Davis checks in, redshirt junior from Pittsburgh. Also an LSU transfer. Time for Holstein, heaves one deep, he's got a man, it's Mumpfield. Now Mumpfield had his hand up early, the pass sailed long. Monty Arnold in coverage.
That's the 4th, Roy, that's the 4th overthrown pass we've seen by Eli Holstein. Konate Mumpfield was wide open. The defense is supposed to reroute, means slow down Mumpfield. They missed on their reroute, and Holstein had Mumpfield, but that's the first on this series. But the 3rd, there was really the 4th overall, that pass has just been sailed a little bit over the receivers' heads.
Davis motions out, empty backfield. Holstein's going to run it again. Over right tackle, punishing hit, crossing the 30. Gain of just 3. This 3-3-5 odd stack defense for Cincinnati under the microscope today under Tyson Veit.
And you see how the linebackers flow over top. The defensive line, they want to create disruption in the backfield to make the linebackers free to be able to make a play. That's what you saw, linebackers being physical after D-line disruption.
Crowd on its feet, 3rd down.
It looks like man-to-man. It very well may not be.
The play clock winding down. Pitt calls a timeout. We'll step aside as well. 4 and change remaining in a fast-moving first quarter. Bearcats by a touchdown. Back at Nippert Stadium, you're watching the Big 12 Conference on ESPN. A capacity crowd on hand. The centerpiece, UC's campus. And the chess match begins between a pair of first-year coordinators, Cade Bell and Tyson Veit, and it's 3rd down and long.
Tyson Veit spent, since 2016, he was at Iowa State, led a defense that was top in the Big 12. Now he's trying to do the same thing at Cincinnati.
And against the pro-tempo approach of young Cade. They'll fake it to Reed. Here comes the deep ball. Mumfield tried to retreat, and he couldn't get there. The coverage was ample by Logan Wilson.
I understand what Holstein's trying to do. An underthrow on the ball usually can get a pass interference, but you didn't have to underthrow that. You had your receiver wide open, so just lay it right in front of him and let him run under it. So we've seen 4 overthrows, 1 ball extremely underthrown. Holstein needs to calm himself down in this different environment.
It's Poppy Williams deep down the field, a 47-yard effort on the way, and it is good. No Ben Sauls, an Ohio native, returning to his home state, the 5th-year senior. And Pittsburgh finally on the board to make it 7-3. Now this season, All-State will celebrate every field goal and extra point made by participating universities by making a donation to the university's General Scholarship Fund. Thank you once again, All-State. 10 plays, 48 yards. And Pitt has gone into Cincinnati territory twice, just 3 points to show for it. And the Bearcats' Tyson Veit would tell you that's a win in his book, I would guess.
It is. Total yardage is about the same, but the difference is what do you do in the red zone? What do you do in the scoring zone? One, we saw an interception and hold them to a field goal. The other, we saw a touchdown. So yardage matters, but most defensive coordinators, they'll tell you, I care about points more than yards allowed.
Ben Sauls back on the field. Logan Wilson, Manny Covey back deep to receive. Entertaining start. They call it the River City rivalry. First time these two teams met was back in 1921. Sauls sails that one 8 yards deep. We check in again with Taylor Davis.
Well, Roy, that Cincinnati touchdown definitely provided some juice down here on the sideline. When I talked to quarterback Brendan Sorsby this week, I asked him what he took away most from his experiences at Indiana. He said, I learned that you're better off remaining poised than forcing something. He said, against the variation of pressure we're about to see in Pitt, I think that's something I have to maintain throughout the entirety of this game. And that's exactly what I've seen from him down here early, just a lot of poise.
The end of that last season in Bloomington, nearly an upset against Penn State. Overtime against Illinois, they put up big offensive numbers. He really started to come into his own. The second he entered the portal, picked up nearly 20 scholarship offers. Ended up with Cincinnati. He's also looking at Mississippi State and Louisville late in that process, Acho.
And that poise that, Taylor, you talked about, and even those options, we felt it yesterday when we sat with him. Calm, cool, collected, but most importantly, confident. That's what I felt when talking with Brendan Sorsby.
And it's something that Coach Satterfield reiterated to us, that he's got a great quick release, but there's just something about him you feel he can go make a play.
Made a ton of plays last week, a big one early this week, and too much mustard on that fastball. Looking for Joe Royer. Now Brandon George applying the pressure. That's what Pat Narduzzi wants to see more of against Sorsby today.
But Scott Satterfield wants answers for that pressure. That was we're gonna go back to that play because that was a late tight end release, and that can be an answer to the pressure that Pat Narduzzi loves to bring. You look at it, you see right there on the left side of your screen. You think that Royer's gonna be blocking, but no, he's wide open right there. Now it was a little bit quick, right through his hands, a little bit high, but they're gonna go back to that play as an answer to the 6-man pressure, or even sometimes 7-man pressure from Pitt.
Bearcats 1 of 2 on third down. Sorsby, another deep ball coming back to it. Reeling in the reception. Xavier Henderson. 2 penalty markers fly in late, and that was working against Battle in plus territory. A gain of 34.
Pass interference. Defense number 15. That penalty is declined. The result of the play is a first down.
Adam Savoie leading this veteran ACC officiating crew, and clear contact some 30 yards downfield.
And it was necessary contact. Battle got beat off the line of scrimmage, and one answer to pressure is, can you win one-on-one? If you're gonna bring all these people to try and blitz me, that means your corners have to play one-on-one. Battle 6'3", 200. Big corner needs to be better in one-on-one coverage.
Fake it to Chance Williams. There it is again. Royer off to the races. It's 1st and goal. The Ohio State transfer. He's healthy. 6'5", 260. Rumbles into the red zone for 32 yards.
We talked about him as a name you need to know, as an athlete, as a blocker, as a leader. But Royer, you could make a whole game plan around Joe Royer as an offense. That's how much he can do.
Tight ends coach Josh Stepp telling us this week, number 11 in red today, an absolute beast. Williams motions out. Sorsby goes straight ahead. Stacked up and driven down. Donovan McMillan. One-yard gain on 1st and goal.
That's called film review, Roy. So Pitt went and watched the film and said, you know what, last week, we saw Sorsby run 2 quarterback sneaks in the red zone. He scored touchdowns on both of them. So they said, okay, anytime he's inside the 10-yard line, be prepared for quarterback sneak. Don't rush up the field, play the run. Great job by Pat Narduzzi in that defense.
Numbers versus Towson. 2 through the air, 2 on the ground. The Indiana transfer. Fake it to Kiner. Sorsby wide open. Boy, he had 2 targets. He'll choose Tony Johnson. 2nd catch of the season. Pick your poison time, and Sorsby getting it done. He had Francis Sherman also in the flats.
He could have made it easy on himself, but he chose the harder way. You had 2 guys wide open. Notice the linebackers are all flowing the wrong direction. And what a perfectly placed ball by Sorsby. Yes, you had your option. Pick which one you want to pick, but that ball could not have been thrown better by Sorsby.
Now Sherman's got to be thinking, what do I have to do to get a touchdown? He started his career at Louisville, then at Arkansas. 44 may have something to say about that in the film room tomorrow. We'll see. It's a touchdown nonetheless.
And to your point, Roy, what happens, the reason why that play works is you ran outside zone, outside zone, outside zone. Linebackers think it's going to be outside zone, get the fake, and all of a sudden the ball's coming back the other way.
75 yards in just 6 plays, 2 first-quarter touchdowns. The extra point wobbles through from Carter Brown. Now coming up next on ABC, South Carolina Gamecocks square off against Kentucky, the SEC Conference opener in Lexington at 3:30 Eastern. And coming up in prime time tonight, ACC versus SEC, a top 25 showdown. Vols and Wolfpack in a big early season test for both squads. Of course, both games on ESPN Plus as well. Vols and NC State tonight. Any chance for Dave Doeren and the Wolfpack?
Man, I'm going to say this. Tennessee has a quarterback by the name of Nico Iamaleava. That dude is special. So Dave Doran's known for defense, but Nico, he's got juice.
Grayson McCall says hello as well in his great career at Coastal Carolina, now with NC State. Wolfpack didn't look great in their season opener, a late fourth quarter rally at the top of Western Carolina. Probably a different scene tonight in Charlotte. Here's Kenny Johnson from the 4. And Johnson across the 25. A penalty marker flies in after a return of 22.
During the return, holding, receiving team, number 12. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Let's say good afternoon to Kevin Connors for the first time. KC, what do you have?
Good afternoon to you. Top 10 matchup in the Western advantage. This is Quinn Ewers finding Gunnar Hill.
And Texas has decoded this Michigan defense so far. They've gone left, right, and then vertical strike when they divided that defense.
Dominating a 127 yardage edge. Roy 7-0.
Kevin, thank you very much. An early start for the Horns on the road. Back to live action here in Cincinnati. Screen pass. Des Reed.
So why would you do a screen pass right now? Well, you've seen 4 overthrows, 1 underthrow. You're telling your quarterback, hey, let's settle down, get an easy throw, see a completion, and then get momentum.
Utilizing tempo, Holstein surveys, and behind his tight end, Bartholomew. Well, heavy pressure, Marquez Parker. Panthers need 6. Holstein, the pump fake. Nearly intercepted again. Derek Canteen read the route against Mumfield. 3 and out for the Panthers.
Holstein pump faked that ball. But the issue was you didn't need to. You had Mumfield open about 2 seconds earlier, but he didn't trust his eyes. Mumfield's open coming across the middle. Holstein, instead of throwing it, he pumps it, he hesitates. Hesitation doesn't lead to positive things in football. Dropped interception, but Holstein has to trust his eyes.
Canteen coming over from Virginia Tech. Coaching staff here in the Queen City have talked about his leadership. His father was in the Army nearly 25 years. He has fit in extremely well. The Bearcats program. Well, there's the Taco Bell Live Más student section. Don't forget, all season long, student sections across the country competing to be the Taco Bell Live Más student section of the year. Download the Taco Bell app to learn more. Not sure they got here early. They've had plenty to cheer about in this first quarter, and they have remained loud for this proud program now playing in the Big 12.
And last year we saw Cincinnati struggle in their first year in the Big 12. Well, some of the coaches have said, hey, we need to bring in players and a culture where we understand what it takes to succeed. We're seeing differences in last year and this.
Sorsby has spotted 5 different receivers early. And Evan Pryor picks up 4. Time winding down in our first quarter. How about this start by the home team? Bit uneven at times last week in the victory against Towson. Back in the friendly confines. So far, so good. Bearcats try to win their 4th game in a row against Pitt. Off and running in Cincinnati.
Back to Nippert Stadium, Cincinnati with a 14-3 lead. Pitt coach Pat Narduzzi joins me now. Coach, you told us this week would be a much different test than week 1. What'd you take away from your team start?
We got to make some plays. We've obviously, shot ourselves in the foot with what we've done. We got to, get touchdowns instead of field goals, and we got to make a play at corner. We got chances to win one-on-ones. We got to win the one-on-one battle.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Taylor, thank you. Start of our second quarter, 14-3. Our score is Pryor around the right end. Gain of 1, maybe 2. Biles brought him down quickly. It's 3rd down. And for Pittsburgh on offense, Eli Holstein's got to be more accurate passer here at the end of the first half.
4 for 11, and those 7 misses, 5 of them are just either overthrown 4 or underthrown severely. So he's got to calm himself down, get in the rhythm, and Cade Bell's got to just give him some quick passes to gain confidence.
3rd and 4. Keep an eye on 11 in motion. Already put up some big numbers today. Post corner, there it is, Xavier Henderson. 3rd down conversion in front of Donovan McMillan, and 15 yards on 3rd and 4.
The issue with this defensive structure is this. They're used to bringing pressure, but they've been getting beat on pressure. So they said, okay, let's drop back into coverage. But when your MO is pressure, 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 you're not going to be as in tune to where you're supposed to be in coverage. That was a zone coverage. The underneath defenders didn't get deep enough.
Fake it to Corey Kiner. Sorsby sails it out of bounds. Royer in the area. Joe Royer beast himself, one of the top targets for Brendan Sorsby.
And this is the answer. You saw Joe Royer block, and then they missed it. But they said, hey, the answer to pressure is patience with Royer. This time you see that hesitation by Royer. Do you think he's going to block? Yes. But he hesitates, and he's wide open across the middle. The issue with this defense is that everyone's going full speed. You might forget about a player who starts off blocking, and then they go out to a route.
Scott Satterfield told us, Brad Glenn, the OC, Royer's like a joker. He's good on all hands. What he brings to the table. 2-yard gain on 2nd and 10. Back to 3rd down. Twitchy athlete, too. Be 6'5", 260. Cincinnati's known for producing some good tight ends over the years, right? Travis Kelce. There have been a handful of others. Bearcats 3 of 4 on 3rd down so far.
3rd and long is not where you want to be if you're Cincinnati because there's so many exotic blitzes, but we've seen so far their answers. I wonder if it's going to be a running back on this one.
Panthers will bring 5. They'll set up the screen into it. Kiner got to get down to the 31, and that is enough to move the sticks. A gain of 8.
So there are a few answers to pressure. One of them is running back screen. That's what we saw in that last play. So you want to bring them all? All y'all come and try and sack me? Come on, come on, come on. Nope. I'm going to throw right over your head.
On 1st down, Bearcats utilizing tempo. They'll vary their pace today. Talking to Brendan Sorsby, too, yesterday, we mentioned and we asked the question, facing pressure, what's #1 on your list of priorities? He said it's all about the pre-snap read and what we see. I want to try to draw them offside with a fake clap, but understanding what's coming based off of what they show, Acho.
Based off of where the defense lines up. The issue is this defense will line up very similar locations, but they'll bring different blitzes. That's why we haven't seen as much as the fake clap, but we've seen those predetermined answers like screens or tight end delay routes.
Fake it to Chance Williams. Sorsby rolls out, flings it to the end zone. Dangerous pass. And a 50-50 ball, the early indication, an interception by Ryland Gandy. Well, the toe tap right beside that front pylon. You only need 1 inbounds with possession in college.
I get the trust. You trust your receivers, but don't trust them too much when Gandy's back there. This is a 50-50 ball, really a 20-80 because of Gandy's position. Looks like it's 1 foot in.
Will change fortunes for Cincinnati. Gandy did have possession, but the left foot, Acho, came down out of bounds first as he established control. So an incomplete pass after instant replay review, rather.
You see that the left foot is down, left foot is out of bounds. But I'll go back to the trust. What will quarterback Brendan Sorsby do? Will he continue to challenge the DBs, though there was an interception, or will he be more safe on this next series as the game goes on?
Gandy has waited for his turn, really for almost 3 seasons behind some veteran cornerbacks. That Pittsburgh secondary. A dangerous throw by Sorsby. Somehow maintained possession. 3rd down and 9.
We heard from Taylor and Coach Narduzzi that Coach Narduzzi challenged the corners. He said, we have to get better corner play. Well, that's better corner play. Though the foot was out of bounds, challenge accepted by Gandy, but they got to keep it going for the rest of this game.
Tyron Smith goes in motion. He'll get it on the swing. Smith with a crease and a 1st down. Scott Satterfield calling ball plays again for the Bearcats this year. Well designed for a pickup of 12.
We saw that earlier screen to the running back. This is another version of a screen, essentially a tunnel screen, but a screen to the outside. Motion, ball's out now. Ball's out extremely quick. You know there's going to be pressure on 3rd and long. Answers are screens and delays by either tight ends or running backs and receivers.
10th play of the drive coming up. Bearcats on the move again. Already leading 14-3. Fake a sweep. Sorsby keeps it. Well, we've seen a lot of quarterback run game today for both sides. Late penalty flags fly in. Every time one of these guys keeps it, there's a punishing hit on the other end. Panthers defense originally indicating this infraction would go against Cincinnati. Adam Savoie.
Personal foul, illegal blindside block, offense number 21, 15-yard penalty, replay 1st down.
A massive penalty against Corey Kiner.
Big time. So now you're going to go to 1st and 25. Which is not where you want to be versus the defense that loves to pressure. And as an offensive coordinator, Satterfield calling plays says, okay, what do I do when I got plays for 1st and 10, maybe 1st and 15, 1st and 25. There you see Kiner right there coming in with a late hit, unnecessary, and that's where the penalty comes from.
The new blindside block rule that was put into place last year no longer can just orchestrate a decleater out of nowhere. Chance Williams on the field. Power formation and brought down at the line. He's going to lose 2. Rasheem Biles. Sophomore from Columbus, back in the great state of Ohio. Won a state championship in basketball. The coaches, you talk to them these days, they love the athletes that ended up playing multiple sports. It just seems to translate well. Xavier Henderson ushered out. 7-yard gain in front of Battle.
That play by Biles was huge because that stretch play or that outside zone play that's been effective now is being stopped because of the backside edge defenders are chasing full speed down the line of scrimmage. We've seen 2 stops like that put you in negative yardage by Rasheem Biles. That's his 2nd time he's made a tackle for loss like that.
3rd and long. 13th play coming up. Bearcats are in field goal range from the 25. Sorsby steps up, the pump fake, pass delivered. Aaron Turner with a penalty flag down at the 31. Gain of 19 if the play stands, and let's see.
Holding, offense, number 54, 10-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Tinsley negates another big play for the Bearcats offense, and an enormous sequence there. Been close to 1st and goal. Instead, you're all the way back at the 35.
And now you're thinking field goal. You're not thinking I got to get a touchdown. You're thinking let's get back into field goal range. Let's get 5 yards, maybe 7 yards, and get this game to a 2-possession game, at least a 2-touchdown game. You're not trying to get the whole thing. Just get not even half, a quarter of it back.
Cincinnati offensive line brought back everybody from last year's team. Another Squeen Turner. Nominal gain of 3. UConn transfer, get it down to the 31. So a long field goal try coming for Carter Brown. Talked to Scott Satterfield about the distance and kind of where he feels comfortable. He indicated to us yesterday 33 and in, but he's got the leg strength to go back to as far as a 55-yard attempt. Officially from 49 yards here. Brown 1 for 2 last week. And on the way, Brown bangs it through. Well, he split the pipes just over the crossbar. And the Bearcats extend their lead to 14.
The defensive stop, the penalty, the forced holding, hold them to a field goal, but still a 2-touchdown game for the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Welcome to Applebee's. Can I interest you in America's favorite boneless wings for just 50 cents each?
I'll have the 50-cent bone.
Cover your mouth. They could steal your order.
I'll have the 50-cent boneless wings.
I'll have the same.
Perfect. They'll never see it coming.
Tired of a cluttered house filled with forgotten toys? Here's 3 steps to help you and your kids feel less overwhelmed. Step 1, let's simplify. Get rid of the excess and donate it. Step 2, get the play kits by Lovevery. They're designed to be exactly what your child wants and needs as they grow. Step 3, it's time to play. With the play kits, they'll enjoy independent play for longer. So try the play kits today.
Roy, really kind of eyes on this Pitt offense to get into a rhythm to close out the first half.
Taylor, and my question would be Eli Holstein. We mentioned it to begin the second half with Acho. His numbers not what we saw a week ago, obviously against weaker competition in Kent State. But he's had some opportunities in Cincinnati territory. He has not come up with a clutch throw just yet. Nathan Hawks sends it deep. Kenny Johnson from the 7. Penalty marker comes in. Johnson remains on his feet. Twisting down at the 30. A return of 24 likely coming back in some capacity. Acho Holstein 4 of 11, 44 yards, the interception in the end zone. Cade Bell told us yesterday he's all about getting first downs.
2 fouls on the play, both by the receiving team during the return. Holding, number 20, penalty is declined. Holding, number 8, penalty is half the distance to the goal, first down.
Now let's send you back to the studio. Kevin Connors, what do you have?
Roy, Arkansas was leading Oklahoma State 14-zip and driving, but Trevor Maddich, this is Cale Smith, a game-changing play.
And this was absolutely massive. They had driven it down to the 29-yard line. Looked like they might go up 21-0. Instead, it's 14-7.
Still only 4 carries for 6 yards by Ollie Gordon, but Roy, it is a 14-7 Arkansas lead over on ESPN.
Let the nation understand Taylen Green and what he brings to the table for head coach Sam Pittman. Back to live action here. Des Reed rumbles for 9. Logan Wilson the stop. Green transferring in from Boise State. Acho, and a difference maker on the road in Stillwater so far.
Yeah, he's a big time quarterback. Big time, literally 6 foot 6 inches tall and runs like a gazelle.
Seems like everybody has a new playmaker under center. In the pistol, in the shotgun this year. The transfer quarterback syndrome, including with this game today. Penalty marker comes in. Reed brought down to the 29.
Holding, offense number 86, 10-yard penalty, first down.
It's Bartholomew.
Discipline hurts. So this is the second penalty we've seen on a return, and then you saw this holding. We talk about the hidden yardage in football. This is what keeps offenses and teams from winning games: lack of discipline and fundamentals.
Should have been second and short. Instead, it's first. And a long ways to go. Holstein in the flats. Reed shoved out by Young for a gain of 2.
What makes it even more difficult for an offense when you're in second and long against this Tyson Fight defense is that they'll just drop. We saw that we had 8 guys in coverage. They'll just let you have anything underneath and will force you to try and beat us over top, which is hard to do.
Yeah, the on-stack coming in. Iowa State. That pass nearly picked off by Wilson. It took forever for Holstein to deliver that football, trying to spot Mumfield.
So many guys in coverage again, and they're just reading the quarterback. That's all. Wherever the quarterback tells you to go, you go. Eli Holstein's a redshirt freshman. He's not acclimated to looking off defensive backs just yet. And so what this defense says is, let's just watch his eyes, shuffle our feet, and go when the ball goes.
Nippert on its feet, 3rd and 15. Pressure, Holstein. Shovels it ahead, it's incomplete. That play you felt like never had a chance. Corleone able to bust through the pocket and chase Holstein out to his left.
One thing that stands out to me about this defense is, yes, they'll drop 8, but the 3 guys that rush, they oftentimes get pressure in the backfield. Dante Corleone pushing back on the guard. He gets his hands off, and he's getting pressure in the backfield, whether it's the 3-man rush or rarely if they ever bring 4. The defensive line for Cincinnati lives in opponents' backfields, and that gives more time for defensive backs and linebackers.
Second punt from Caleb Junko, former walk-on. Smith watches it bounce at the 44. 17-3, Bearcats get it back after a punt of just 39. Now tune in to Cal versus Auburn. Find this in every live event. Where to watch? Only on the ESPN app, ESPN.com. Just tap for the ultimate guide to live sports. Here at Nippert Stadium, 17-3, the Bearcats in front of the Pittsburgh Panthers. Sam Acho, Roy Philpott, Taylor Davis on hand. Play action. Pass in the flats into Pitt territory. It's Tony Johnson picking up 9. The tackle by Lynham. Bearcats seem to be perhaps one step quicker, one step ahead of what Pitt wants to do really on both sides of the ball so far, Acho.
They're making quicker decisions on offense, especially at the quarterback position. That's been the difference offensively. And defensively, giving up less explosive plays. That's been the difference in this game so far.
See if the Bearcats want to take a shot. Instead, it's Kiner. If the spin move will pick up first down yardage on McIntyre, the tackle. The balance for this Bearcats offense. You know Scott Satterfield wants to run it. If he gets the ground game going more times than not throughout his career as a play caller, passing yards will follow. And out of bounds, Sorsby under duress late. Henderson was there. 2nd and 10.
And the reason why the run game leads to the pass game is that it puts defenses under duress. When you can't stop the run as a defense, you're thinking, okay, we either as a coordinator have to bring more pressure. As a player, I have to focus more on the run. So it gives you time as an offense to say, okay, they're focusing on the run. Let me just run a play action, throw it over their heads. Let me try and get the ball out quick. So it frustrates the defense when you can't stop the run, because that's the #1 thing you have to do.
Sorsby again back to the air. Sterling Burkhalter. Gain of 11, another first down. Burkhalter, the transfer from North Carolina A&T. Cincinnati native coming home. 8 different receivers have touched the football today. So Scott Satterfield, Brandon Sorsby spreading the wealth around so far.
And they're doing it quickly. We're seeing a lot of what we call quick game. Ball comes out quick before the pressure gets there, and then you'll see every now and again a few deep balls when they have more people to protect the quarterback.
Pistol look, Kiner. Try to cut it back. McIntyre cut him down after a gain of 5.
Kiner, the senior, transfer from LSU. He was named Mr. Football for Ohio in 2020. He's extremely talented. Now he's getting an even better opportunity now that he's been at Cincinnati.
Scott Satterfield said he's our security blanket. I don't think he was happy last week. He was happy for his teammate Evan Pryor. Went over 100 yards. Corey Kiner is senior, 7 touches and a blowout win. Kind of with the running back there. Coach, let's get it going. He's gotten it going so far today. 8 carries in the first half. Royer turns out to be a lead blocker. Sorsby. Decent speed to the edge, a little physicality at the end.
And a lot of confidence. Brendan Sorsby could have thrown it to Royer. He was open in the flat. Instead, he pointed and said, no, Royer, you go block for me, Joe. And so Joe made the block, and then you see he got nearly a first down. So to me, it tells me that he's confident, and also that his teammates believe in him too. It says, I'll block for you. I know you can make me a winner too.
Well, it's 3rd and short, but Sorsby never hit the turf that time. Even out of bounds, he made sure to stay upright. And putting up nearly 400 passing yards last week. Most since we've seen the Bearcat signal caller since Gunnar Keel.
Cincinnati, they're first. 30 seconds.
And the sequel so far in week 2 hasn't been too shabby. On that same pace again. Well, the 55th season of Monday Night Football kicks off with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he's back. The highly anticipated comeback. Last year's torn Achilles, lead the Jets against Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. On ESPN, ABC, ESPN Deportes, ESPN Plus with Peyton and Eli. Also on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus. It gives us a chance to remind the nation about Sauce Gardner on display with the Jets. Top 5 draft pick 2 years ago. And an absolute blanket coverage throughout his career here in the Queen City. Dapping it up with Roger Goodell on draft night. What a scene.
Sauce Gardner was elite in college, and he's taken that same elite level of play to the New York Jets. Already a young player, but already one of the best corners in the entire NFL.
He was here. You didn't throw it to his side of the field, or bad things were going to happen for the offense. Great crowd for this early start at Nippert Stadium. 3:18 remaining. Panthers need to find a way to get a stop on this drive. Otherwise, a clear and present uphill battle in the second half awaits. Chance Williams never gave up on that play. Back to the line of scrimmage, though, and that's about it. And it will be 4th and short.
I love the fact that they're looking like they're going to go for this. You could easily say, let's kick a field goal, make it a 17-point game. But you know how effective you've been in the run game, and you're saying, let's try and end it here. End it meaning try and lose all the confidence for the defense.
8th play of the drive on 4th down. Panthers need a stop, and they won't get it. Corey Kiner, the second effort, got there. Boy, Matlack, I thought, had a path to stop him in the backfield, Acho.
It was more than a thought. It was correct. Matlack met the running back in the backfield. Kiner and Matlack meet in the backfield, and Kiner wins the battle. That's a tackle for loss. That's a 4th down stop. That's a huge turn of events. But instead, Kiner and this strength staff, the weight room, they talk about how much stronger these guys have gotten on this team. He wins in a 4th and critical situation.
Corey Kiner back in action. 1,000-yard ground gainer last year. On track this season. 2-minute timeout. We'll step aside in Cincinnati.
Kevin Connors in studio. Coming up on the Voya halftime report, we'll check in on the big one in the big house, how Texas has been dominant against Michigan, plus a stunner in Happy Valley. Wait till you see what's going on with Penn State. And Trevor's trio. Trevor Matich will be here the 3 games he's keeping an eye on tonight, including Tennessee and NC State. Roy, coming up when you join us for the Voya halftime report.
KC, we cannot wait. Back here in Cincinnati, Bearcats on the move. Time winding down, under 2 to go in our first half. Sorsby kept it. The ball's going to be tipped upon release by Nate Matlack.
Roy, that was a great play by Matlack, getting his hands up and tipping that ball. But this is the most critical time and junction in this game. Because if Cincinnati scores again, imagine how demoralized Pitt's going to feel, not only after going through what they went through last season and the struggles of last season, but coming into a different opponent, an away game, quarterback's not playing great. Now, if Pitt can get a stop, all of a sudden it builds confidence and they get the ball back at the beginning of the second half.
How much time's left on the clock would matter there. Corey Kiner churning the legs. Bolting ahead in a gain of 10. Kiner will not go down, relentless.
And Braden George had an opportunity to stop him, but another missed tackle. Speaks to the strength of Corey Kiner, but also the confidence of Corey Kiner. Last year against this team, Corey Kiner ran for a career-high 153 yards against Pitt. So when he sees that color, the Pitt uniform, he says, okay, I know what I can do against these guys. He's running with strength, but he's running with confidence as well.
Says he patterns his game after Kenneth Walker. David Montgomery. Got that low center of gravity. Royer joins him in the backfield. It's Kiner again. Zone run down to the 6. McIntyre at tackle, a gain of 5 more.
Notice who's falling forward and who's going backwards. Every time Kiner has the ball, he's always going forward. The defense is not knocking him back. That speaks something to the offensive line. They say, let's block a little bit harder for him because we know he's going to get us into the end zone.
Panthers with 2 timeouts remaining, less than a minute to go. They elect to not stop the clock on 2nd down. Evan Pryor comes in at running back. Bearcats can pick up a first down without scoring. 40 seconds remaining in the half. Sorsby back to the air. Broken up in the last minute. Aaron Turner, the intended receiver, Lynham, got there just in the nick of time, Macho.
Lynham made an outstanding play because Turner was open in the end zone. Lynham gets off of his coverage and attacks the football, but he goes through the man to get to the football. Without that play, great job playing the ball and ripping it out, would have been a big-time touchdown by this offense and by Sorsby.
Tamon Lynham, the transfer from Nebraska. 3 years in Lincoln. Started 1 game last year for the Huskers. And now the Panthers utilize a timeout.
Pitt, their second.
On 3rd and 6. The clock had already been paused on the incompletion. Both sides a chance to talk it over. Coming up, our featured games on ESPN Plus later tonight. 9th-ranked Mizzou hosting Buffalo, Florida, and Sanford. Back of the Swamp at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Later tonight, number 18 LSU hosting Nichols at 7:30 from Death Valley. To get ESPN Plus, go to ESPNplus.com or download the ESPN app. Now the Gators and Tigers coming off of early season setbacks a week ago. Brian Kelly pounding the table in his post-game press conference. Had social media ablaze for a couple of days. We'll see what the Bayou Bengals can do tonight. What the Bearcats can do here on 3rd down. Joe Royer lines up his H-back in that backfield. Now in motion. It's open in the flat. Chase the other way. Sorsby back in the end zone and out of bounds. Well, the Panthers dial up the pressure. They get home, forcing the incompletion. Kyle Lewis made sure that Sorsby never had a chance.
And Lewis had to make that play because 2 things happened. Number 1, Joe Royer was covered in the flat. Number 2, there was a receiver wide open in the backfield. Without that pressure by Lewis, that would have been an easy touchdown. Royer was the primary read. Royer is covered. And then so Lewis says, okay, he's covered. I'm going to get that pressure to keep this from being a touchdown. Big time stop by Pitt.
Carter Brown, a 25-yard effort forthcoming after connecting from 47 yards earlier, and he does not connect here. Brown off the mark, and a win for the Pitt defense here at the end of the half.
Not only a win, but a 7-point swing. First, you stop the touchdown, then you hold them to a field goal. And then the laces, look where the laces are pointing in the wrong direction, and then you have a missed field goal. Two things happen. Number one, keep points off the board. Number two, no matter what happens here, you get the ball back to begin the second half.
Acho, I didn't play in college like you did, but as a high school place kicker, I still have nightmares about kicking the laces square on with a field goal attempt.
Were you really a high school place kicker?
I was.
What was your percentage?
Wasn't great, but I did make one from 44 yards.
Oh, go ahead, 44. Let's see it.
Not terrible. Kicking the laces, the field goal is errant. Holstein back on the field. A pump fake and the dump off. The check down to Reed, a spin and a first down. Panthers with one timeout remaining. And a gain of 20.
Timeout.
Corleone
Pitt,
to stop.
Their third and final.
And the Panthers utilizing that final pause. Trying to make some kind of magic happen here at the end of the first half. Kick off your Week 1 NFL Sunday with a countdown crew. About Troy Aikman sitting down with Dak Prescott. Chat before the big game with Cleveland. Take a look inside the quarterback room. Dynamic that will determine the season for both Pittsburgh and Atlanta, along with all the latest news and notes from around the league and our insider Adam Schefter. Sunday NFL Countdown, 10 a.m. Eastern, the place to be. Sam Acho, Roy Philpott, Taylor Davis. After the timeout, the Panthers back on the field.
13 seconds left. You're thinking out of bounds and first downs. Get a first down, the clock will stop. You can clock it after that.
Holstein steps up and delivers. Bartholomew incomplete. 7 seconds remaining.
That's barely enough time to get off maybe 2 plays. So you can get to the sideline quick, but you need about 30 yards to get into field goal range. So you might try a deep out route to the sideline that might take about 5 seconds. Try and get yourself in field goal range. With 7 seconds, it's right on the precipice of being able to run a second play.
Uneven start for this Pitt offense that put up 55 a week ago. Holstein again flush, wants to heave one deep. And the pass caught by Mumfield at the 35. The clock showing 000, a gain of 26.
Please put 1 second on the game clock, and the clock will start on my signal.
1 second will be added. You have to have at least 3 to clock the football. And multiple Bearcat defenders down on the turf.
Timeout for an injury to a defensive player.
Ken Willis down in Pittsburgh's backfield. And so is Dante Corleone. So an interesting turn of events here at the end of the half. Ben Sauls does have ample leg strength. He's long of 50 yards in his career. Does have a game winner from 47 yards out. Came in the Sun Bowl. And Corleone helped to his feet.
Looks like they are bringing out Sauls to kick the field goal.
Well, the injured Bearcat players paused the clock. This veteran officiating crew meeting to decide what happens here in terms of the timing.
See Pitt already lined up, ready to snap the ball.
Would be a 53-yard effort. From Ben Sauls. Perfect a week ago. And time for one more play. Snap down the hole with a kick on the way. Penalty marker comes in. The kick is good. And Sauls absolutely crushed that. Field goal stands. Perhaps a spark entering halftime for a team that lacked punch in the first 30 minutes.
Personal foul, roughing the snapper, defense number 26. That 15-yard penalty will be carried over to the second half kickoff. The field goal is good. It's halftime.
Make it 17-6. The Panthers will receive the second half kickoff with likely outstanding field position to begin the second half. Here in the Queen City, 17-6, Cincinnati leading Pitt. Let's get you to the halftime report. Kevin Connors, Trevor Maddich.
That
17-6 as we get set for the second half. Nippert Stadium. Sam Acho, Roy Philpott, Taylor Davis. Bearcats leading Pittsburgh. Take a look at today's player spotlight, brought to you by Febreze. And really advantage Brendan Sorsby, Acho, with that first half throwing for over 200 yards.
Sorsby looked outstanding, but we have to remember, this is Holstein's first start in a hostile environment. Last week he started versus Kent State at home. Now he's playing somewhere else. Let's see how the redshirt freshman responds to a rough first half.
Into the first half, closed in favor of Pitt. Trailing 17-3, this massive completion. Holstein gets it across the middle. The clock is going to stop on the first down. Two Bearcat defenders then go down with injuries, resulting in the option for Pittsburgh for the 10-second runoff, which of course they did not want, or the stop in play, which they did want. 1 second was put back on the clock. 53-yard bomb is connected on by Ben Sauls. So a spark at the end of the half. Let's see if that resonates to begin our third quarter. Kenny Johnson with a path and a nice return all the way ahead to midfield. 38-yard return. There was a personal foul penalty tacked on at the end of the half, resulting in a kickoff that was all the way back at the 20. And Pittsburgh now in a prime position. Taylor Davis.
Well, Roy, that is exactly what Pat Narduzzi told me at halftime. He said this is going to start with good field position. When your offense is not in much of a rhythm, you can't be having special teams penalties and not putting us in good situations. Defensively, he felt like they gained some momentum toward the end of the first half, but he said we're on the field way too much. We have to get ourselves off quicker.
They will start this drive in Cincinnati territory. Panthers have it. Inside give to Des Reed. 4-yard gain. Corleone the tackle. Dante Corleone back in action, diagnosed with blood clots in his lungs back in the summer. Missed last week. Now healthy and ready to go, wearing number 2 this week. Holstein will be flush. And he'll pick up the first down, racing out of bounds with a marker back at the 41.
Smart play by Holstein. That was supposed to be a running back screen to Des Reed. It was covered by the interior defensive line, so Holstein kept it and ran with it.
Holding, offense, number 50, 10-yard penalty, second down.
Acho, that's a microcosm of this entire game so far for Pitt. Something good happens, then a penalty, a turnover, a TFL, and it derails a possession.
They take 1 step forward and 2 steps backwards, as it seems, whether it's on special teams with penalties, on offense with penalties, defense with giving up big plays. So they have to build some momentum and some rhythm. I love the play call on that last play, but the holding negates another positive for Pitt.
Third holding penalty of the game for the Panthers. Desmond Reed trying to bust it outside to the edge. He'll get there. It's that secondary gear racing out of bounds. 9-yard pickup.
It's that juice that we talked about. Des Reed could have hit it inside, but instead he trusted his speed. He trusts his speed to be able to lean in and bounce outside.
was committed to Coastal Carolina, transferring out of Western Carolina before Pitt saw the tape and Reed falls down in the backfield.
He had it too, Roy. He had that outside wide open. If he would have kept his feet, he could have bounced outside and got a first down, outran the inside linebacker. He slipped. Looks like they're staying on the field and going for that fourth down.
Analytics on 4th and 3 will tell you to go if it's 4th and 6 or less.
He's releasing wide.
Holstein avoids the pressure. Dancing his way, still alive. Holstein floats it ahead, and I don't know. They will rule it incomplete, and the Panthers turn it over on downs. And Reed is slow to get up.
So the play out to the flat was unavailable, wasn't open. And so Holstein wants to get it out there, he can't. Great job on the interior rush. Holstein stays alive, tries to get it out to Des Reed, and unfortunately, Des Reed isn't able to get it, and Des Reed is still down in the middle of the field.
Numero 0 remains on the turf. Junior out of Miami Gardens, Florida originally. And helped up with a little bit of assistance. Walking off under his own power, Taylor Davis.
I spoke with Coach Satterfield at halftime as well. I asked him how they're handling Pitt's tempo. He said very well. He said we're lined up where we're supposed to be. And one of the biggest things they said they would have to eliminate this week against Pitt was the big plays. He emphasized that at halftime, making sure they do that more in the second half. A lot of high praise for his quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, and how he's seeing this. He said, keep in mind, he didn't see a lot of pressure in week 1's contest. So he's got to continue to take care of the ball, and we've got to finish drives with touchdowns. Also, defensive end Rob Jackson is out the remainder of the game.
Something to watch. The Bearcats, a spin by Kiner. Brandon George brought him down quickly. It'll be 2nd and long. The Bearcats just methodically going about their business in our first 2 quarters. Sorsby precise in the passing game, and that early touchdown strike to Jamoy Mays set the table for an impressive first half.
He hasn't turned the ball over. That's what's been most impressive to me. Ball control for this Cincinnati offense.
8 different receivers have caught passes as well. Tony Johnson stepped right in front of the defender, picks up first down yardage. Rashad Battle went for the pick, didn't get there, a gain of 16.
Bad decision by Battle. So when you're on an island, your job, if you can't get the pick, make the tackle. So if you're going to attack the ball, attack only maybe with your inside hand, not on the outside, because then you're behind the receiver and you have no chance to even make a play. So the better technique would be to try and go through the receiver, get that inside hand up so your outside hand is still free to make a tackle.
Brendan Sorsby and Scott Satterfield reiterated to us this week, we got to stay out of 3rd down and long in this game. They've done it so far. Sorsby on the ground. 7-yard gain on the scramble.
If I'm Narduzzi, I have to be so frustrated because we're blitzing, but we're not getting home. We have a wide open shot at the quarterback, but instead we're running upfield and going around him rather than to him. So it makes you want to hesitate if you actually want to bring pressure, because the pressure that should be getting there, your players are getting blocked by running backs and tight ends.
Bearcats playing keep away so far. 2-1 advantage. Time of possession department. Quick delivery. How about the hands on the perimeter by Henderson?
How about the courage by Sorsby standing in there, getting hit by Jimmy Scott on the quarterback pressure. Sorsby knew he was going to get hit, yet he accepted that pressure to allow time for Henderson to get open. You see the pressure coming right up his face by Jimmy Scott. Stands in the pocket boldly and courageously. I'm telling you, receivers see that, offensive linemen see that, and they rally behind that.
Kiner inside zone, tumbling ahead for a 2-yard gain. Talked with Brendan yesterday and mentioning pregame music and rituals and different things you want to do. of doles it down to start, and then there's a build-up in the headset on the field. Number 2 in red and white said he starts out with a little cold play, and then we'll amp it up a little bit as he gets closer to kickoff. Evan Pryor back on the field at running back for the Bearcats. I didn't know if that was an Acho favorite. Get ready for all those big games in the NFL. Through the hands of Henderson, his go-to receiver.
Not a lot of Coldplay on my playlist, but there were some songs that had to do with Coldplay. Henderson, you see there, one-on-one, and he's going to win on the route, but the ball's going to be a little bit overthrown. But they're going after Battle again and again and again. That was Battle, Rashad Battle in coverage. So it seems as if what Cincinnati's doing is they're targeting Battle, number 15, and seeing if he can step up and make a play. It looks like they trust their receivers more than they trust him.
Sorsby on point on 3rd down. Bearcats 5 of 9. 3rd down conversions in this game. 7th play of the drive. Back to the well one more time. Henderson against Battle. A gain of 13. Drive continues.
Yeah, Xavier Henderson is a big play player. He had a 42-yard touchdown last week on the deep post. So you could be afraid of his speed. He looks like he's going vertical, then he stops on a dime and gets that comeback. He could be a weapon in this offense because of the big playability. As a defender, you think you have to go back and stop the deep shot, but instead he stops quickly and makes a 1st down.
His speed on the deep ball. He'll be a weapon in the Big 12 this year for the Bearcats. Royer in motion. He'll blow this play dead. The penalty marker. Back him up 5.
False start. Offense, number 56. 5-yard penalty. 1st down.
Acho, you and I keep looking at each other here from our broadcast position, waiting for Pittsburgh to make some kind of play. And truthfully, it's been all Cincinnati up to this point, leading by just 11. The game still there for the taking, but no momentum. You haven't sensed that spark out of Pat Narduzzi's bunch just yet.
You don't see the spark on the field. The defense looks a little bit flat. You would hope that one player, we saw Rasheem Biles do it a little bit in the 1st half, one player on that defense would make a play. Sometimes making a play means staying in your gap. Sometimes making your play means making the right tackle. Other times making your play looks like getting an interception and keeping a foot in bounds.
Cincinnati calls a timeout. 1st and 15 coming up, under 9 to go in our 3rd quarter.
Welcome to Applebee's. Can I interest you in America's favorite boneless wings for just 50 cents each?
I'll have the 50-cent bone.
Cover your mouth. They could steal your order.
I'll have the 50-cent boneless wings.
I'll have the same.
Perfect. They'll never see it coming.
She was born, we had that minute of relief, and I was just worried all over again.
What is she supposed to be doing? So many parents are overwhelmed.
My wife turned her phone towards me and she's like, hey, there's this company called Love Every.
This just gives us almost like a play-by-play.
They make these boxes with playthings and parent guides.
Brings us closer together.
Love Every products are different.
When you get your box, it's customized. He has so much energy, but he focuses. Who knew?
You're watching the Big 12 Conference on ESPN, a Sunsplash Saturday afternoon. On the campus of UC, Bearcats leading Pitt 17-6. Sam Acho, Roy Philpott, Taylor Davis. Well, the Bearcats returning all 5 starters on the offensive line. Their 13th consecutive start with the same starting 5, led by Luke Kandra, Cincinnati native, started his career at Louisville. These guys have been paving the way. The Bearcats on the ground and through the air with Brendan Sorsby. Being so efficient today. Aaron Turner dropping down to grab that ball. 6 more through the air for number 9 in red and white.
Pitt is having their way, Cincinnati's having their way with the Pittsburgh defense, whether it's in the run game on the outside zone, whether it's handling the blitz and throwing screens, or even when Pitt decides not to blitz and bring 4-man pressure, Cincinnati just takes their time and spreads the ball out. Somebody on that Pitt defense has to step up and make a play, either on a sack, on pressure, or in coverage.
This drive started after Pitt turned it over on downs, the opening possession of our second half. Evan Pryor tripped up behind the line of scrimmage, resulting in 3rd and long coming up. The 9th play of the drive, the chop down by Jimmy Scott. Well executed.
And that's what we mean, making a play. That was an outside zone play, the exact play that this offense runs. Jimmy Scott is an edge defender, and he beat his one-on-one. He won in one-on-one and had a tackle for loss, forcing them into 3rd and long.
It's really an entirely new defensive front for the Panthers this year. Losing a handful of players to the portal, adding guys like Nate Matlack, Nick James. Kiner in the backfield on 3rd and long. Sorsby off the back foot. Joe Royer. A touchdown from 16 yards out. Hey, Joe.
Anytime you have a tight end at number 3, which is the 3rd receiver inside, it's a problem for inside defenders. Well, Joe Royer isn't just your regular tight end. He's 6'5", 255, and can run routes. One of the best tight ends in all of college football. He's lined up on guys who can't cover him. Easy touchdown.
Brennan Sorsby told us this week, doesn't say a lot in front of the team or necessarily with the media, but just around the guys, he's who you want to hang around. Joe Royer.
A great teammate, a great leader, doesn't talk a lot, but he's very trusted. Joe Royer on the inside, too big for safeties, too fast for linebackers.
Welcome to Applebee's. Can I interest you in America's favorite boneless wings for just 50 cents each?
I'll have the 50-cent bone.
Cover your mouth. They could steal your order.
I'll have the 50-cent boneless wings.
I'll have the same.
Perfect. They'll never see it coming.
She was born, we had that minute of relief, and I was just worried all over again.
What is she supposed to be doing? So many parents are overwhelmed.
My wife turned her phone towards me and she's like, hey, there's this company called Love Every.
This just gives us almost like a play-by-play.
They make these boxes with playthings and parent guides.
Brings us closer together.
Love Every products are different.
When you get your box, it's customized. He has so much energy, but he focuses. Who knew?
24-6, Nippert Stadium on its feet. A capacity crowd halfway home in our 3rd quarter. Samacho Roy, Philpott, Taylor Davis. Joe Royer reaching the end zone moments ago, the transfer from Ohio State. And Taylor, he's overcome a lot of adversity in his young life, hasn't he?
He sure has, Roy. And returning home to Cincinnati wasn't just about football. Unfortunately, he lost his mother, Mickey Royer, in September of 2022, and he wanted to come back home to Cincinnati to be closer to his dad and his family. He actually has a tattoo of his mother's picture, Mickey, on his right arm. Very visible, very noticeable. He said she loved to watch him play then, and she's still what motivates him now.
It's a player, Sam, that has dealt with injuries going back to his time in Columbus and then now returning home, obviously, to be closer to his family. A remarkable story for a young man that's got a real chance in the National Football League, and he reunites with Luke Kandra, who was his high school teammate at Elder. It's Kandra that transferred in from Louisville, and Joe coming in from Ohio State. The two at that powerhouse high school reunited with the Bearcats.
They're bringing back some of that chemistry that they had in high school, and even some of the confidence that Royer had at Ohio State. They're bringing some of that to Cincinnati, and you're seeing the benefits quickly.
Eli Holstein back on the field. He did win the quarterback battle in the offseason with Nate Yarnell. That battle ensued deep into preseason camp before Holstein cemented his status as QB1. Dump out to Derek Davis Jr. Shoved down hard by Mekhi Miller. Taylor.
Guys, Desmond Reed was taken to the sideline and had his lower left leg evaluated by a trainer. They put substantial wrap on it, had him running up and down the sideline. He's clear to go, but definitely uncomfortable.
Davis, a redshirt junior, an LSU transfer himself. Play action Holstein looking in the seam, and it is not available. Kenny Johnson, the intended receiver, and Holstein tried to fit one in there.
I don't know where he was trying to fit it. Not only was it not available, both defenders ran the route. For both Jared Bartlett and Kai Stokes were in front of the receiver. And so that was not a great decision by the quarterback to even attempt to throw that one.
It's getting loud in Nippert.
I love the communication on the back end. Those defensive backs all talking to one another to make sure they know everyone is covered.
Bearcats show pressure. Low snap, Holstein finds a way, pass deflected and incomplete. Well, it wobbled its way to Kenny Johnson. And the Panthers now 0 for their last 5 on 3rd down, Acho.
And that play was made by Jared Bartlett. Jared Bartlett plays in the middle of the defense. His job is to spy the quarterback. He gets his hands up and he deflects the pass. The thing about this defense is that middle field player is essentially a 4th rusher. You can rush the quarterback, but playing the pass is hugely important.
Junko off the side of his foot. And the Bearcats with outstanding field position after the errant punt. A net of just 13 yards, Sam. That's the equivalent of a turnover.
That's the hidden yardage in football. A 13-yard punt, 2 penalties on returns. The unforced mistakes continue for this Pittsburgh team. They're beating themselves. That's what coaches say, hey, we can't beat ourselves before we try to beat somebody else. They're beating themselves in every facet of the game.
And you wonder if at some point Pat Narduzzi will look deeper into his quarterback bench. Competition that was there between Eli Holstein and Nate Yarnell. Holstein just 8 of 21 passing, 94 yards and a pick. Sorsby back on the field. Kiner bowls over a defender. Stopped at the 36. Donovan McMillan on the wrong end of that collision.
And this Pitt defense has been on the wrong end of nearly every collision when Corey Kiner has the ball. It's so impressive to me for Cincinnati offensively and so demoralizing for Pitt defensively when every time they touch the ball, they're getting 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, and they're physically imposing their will on you.
Kiner now approaching 80 yards on the ground. Deep handoff. Kiner stays on his feet. Well, the vision, the balance, and the speed for the veteran running back.
The blocking up front as well. Luke Kandra had a critical block. Number 67 had a critical block on that outside zone play. The way the play's got to be made is from the back end. Luke Kandra's going to be on the front end of this play. He gets to the second level and takes care of 2 players, no holding, great inside hand placement, and causes another big-time play.
Corey Kiner said this week, I love my offensive line. Those guys a week ago in that win against Towson, I hit the second level before there was contact most of my carries. And Sorsby simply throws that one away. So 2nd down and goal from the 10. The running backs always have to compliment the O-line, right? Quarterbacks have to do it too. You got to take those guys out to dinner, massage that relationship a little bit because big dudes up front will block more for you, block harder for you down the stretch.
And that's what makes this offense so special. Last year, they were the 5th ranked rushing offense in all of college football. It starts with the offensive line, but it doesn't end there. It continues with the running back.
Chance Williams, the new running back, a breather for CK. Smith went in motion. Williams weaves his way ahead for a gain of a couple. 3rd down and goal after the tackle by Brandon George.
what has to happen as far as the defense goes, if you want to try to slow down these plays, is you have to chase on the back end.
For an injury to a defensive player.
Well, Scott Satterfield told us this week, we're a close-knit group. We made it a point to get to know each other this offseason. So I think that's going to pay dividends this year. Injured Pitt player on the field.
AT&T is keeping fans connected as we take a look at our multi-view over on ESPN. Tulane, a 20-10 lead on number 17 K-State, though the Wildcats are driving. Arkansas has totally shut down Ollie Gordon. They lead at Oklahoma State 21-10 over on ABC. And Kyle McCord, 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. Roy Cuse up on Georgia Tech.
How about that, KC? We appreciate the update. Taylon Green in Arkansas getting the job done in Stillwater. Brendan Sorsby and the Bearcats of Cincinnati getting the job done here at home against Pitt. And on 3rd and goal, that pass sails incomplete. Back corner of the end zone, Henderson, the intended receiver. And another chance coming up for Carter Brown.
Big stop by the defense. Great coverage. They had Royer covered, really almost double covered. Gandy was there stopping Xavier Henderson. Stops like that could potentially give you some momentum, but you got to start getting some juice offensively as well.
Brown 1 for 2 today in the field goal department. This attempt from 26 yards out. And from straight away, Brown, this time is good. Still a 3-score game. The advantage now pushed to 21. Under 5 to go here in our 3rd quarter. What a lineup we have for you this weekend. And Monday, the U.S. Open Women's Final this afternoon over on ESPN. Our ABC Saturday Night College Football triple-header capped off top 25 showdown with Tennessee and NC State. U.S. Men's Final. U.S. Open Men's Final is tomorrow afternoon on ABC. And then Monday Night Football is back. Week 1 matchup. Aaron Rodgers returns for the Jets, taking on Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers. Everything also, of course, on ESPN+. Now Taylor Fritz punching his way into the U.S. Open Finals. An American trying to win a major. Should be an exciting finale. Cincinnati through the air. Brendan Sorsby, Indiana transfer. Entered the portal on November 27th last year. Committed to the Bearcats less than 10 days later. And a match made in heaven so far with Scott Satterfield. Nathan Hawks sends it deep over the head of Kenny Johnson. No sign of the backup signal caller for the Panthers. Eli Holstein, huge numbers last week. Still trying to find that mojo in his 2nd start.
He's being confused and confounded by the defense. Tyson Veit is giving different looks than he gave last week. Last week we saw a lot of 8-man drops and a few pressures. This week there's been a little bit more pressures from 4-man rush. So he's causing confusion for the redshirt freshman in his 2nd start.
It was this defense at Iowa State that gave teams like Texas and Oklahoma conundrums for all those years in the Big 12, working under John Haycock, the defensive coordinator in Ames. Now he gets a chance to coordinate his own defense and call the plays. Cincinnati, so far, he has been on point with a 3-3-5. Des Reed back on the field. Scampers ahead for 9. And now a first down and a lot more. Des Reed into Cincinnati territory. Penalty markers come in. Sincere Lee, his former teammate at Western Carolina, going to be called for an infraction here. That's a 39-yard gain, pending the penalty. And the mistakes.
Holding, offense, number 11. 10-yard penalty. It's first down.
That's a spot foul by the offense, so 10 yards from where the holding occurred. I just got to go back to the hidden yardage. The mistakes every time Pitt takes a step forward, it's almost like they jump backwards. They do something positive, something that would actually spark momentum. Then the next play, or the same play, or maybe the play before, there was something negative that happened.
Ball spotted at midfield. Derek Davis back on the field at running back for Pitt. And Sincere Lee, part of that package featuring running back, wide receiver, offensive play caller. Holstein, good decision in a first down run.
Smart decision to slide as well. Earlier on some of the design quarterback sneaks, he tried to stay up. Protect your body, Eli. I know you're a big guy, but slide to the next play.
Pitt offense starting to click on this possession. Still a lot of time left for a team that likes to go fast. Holstein's going to take off again. Plenty of real estate in front of him. Had to get to the 29 to secure the first down. And he is there. So it's interesting. Eli Holstein on the ground on this possession seems to have found something, along with his offensive play caller, Cade Bell. Fake it to Davis. Sincere Lee's first grab.
That's the downside of a three-man rush that this 3-3-5 has. If you have only 3 people rushing, that's one less person to try and get to the quarterback.
Knocking on the door of the red zone. 3 minutes remaining in the third. Holstein again. The pump fake, floats it, and Davis incomplete. Intended for Derek Davis. Derek Canteen in coverage. Tried to thread the needle against a 3-3-5.
And that's what they try to do. A 3-3-5 defense says, okay, quarterback, we're going to put 5 people in coverage. We're going to force you to be accurate. We're only going to rush 3. Let's see if you can find an open space in our zone defense. Sometimes they'll run man, but primarily it's going to be zone. Holstein has not been able to find the open space, and plays like that by Canteen are the reason why.
Johnson will take the direct snap. And shoving blockers out of his path. That's a first down. Dingle stopped him after a gain of 4. The Panthers now in the red zone for the first time. It's been a while. 55 points a week ago against Kent State. An entirely different story so far today. Holstein again on the move, nearly intercepted. Penalty marker comes in as well. Phillips, the hard hit on the Pitt quarterback. Derek Canteen swatted that one away.
Knows he should have intercepted it. Well, he's a little bit mad at himself.
Personal foul. Roughing the passer with targeting. Defense number 91. Penalties half of this is the goal. Automatic first down. Targeting is under further review.
The fifth-year senior, Eric Phillips.
Eric Phillips is the leader of this defense. One thing they talk about in targeting is using the crown of your helmet, 6 inches from the very top of your helmet, going down. And as you look at this play, Phillips goes a little bit high, but the helmet doesn't seem to be lowered.
Now the launch, you're looking towards the head or neck area. I agree with you. It doesn't appear as if the crown was a factor against Holstein. But after getting rid of the football, defenseless player in that moment, the call on the field of targeting critical here. And for Eric Phillips, key cog in the 3-3-5 for defensive coordinator Tyson Veit. So you're looking for that forcible contact to the head or neck area.
Yeah, I don't see that. But what I did hear from the referees is they called roughing the passer with targeting. And so even if the targeting isn't applied, the roughing the passer penalty still will be.
It's 15 yards and a first down. The question is Eric Phillips still in this football game, or is he disqualified? Draper, our replay official. I think enough there to consider.
After further review, there is no foul for targeting. Number 97 may remain in the game. The roughing the passer penalty will still be enforced half the distance to the goal with an automatic first down.
Face mask went up. And certainly in a position to avoid the targeting call, at least to begin there as you go through the checklist. Forcible contact, defenseless player, crown of the helmet. Phillips remains on the field. Personal foul penalty of roughing the passer remains. First and goal from inside the 10. Well, this is the area the Pitt offense explained to us that they rep in practice considerably. Their goal is to get as many first downs and as points as they can, but the red zone, they feel like they specialize in these moments with this new pro-tempo offense under Cade Bell. Holstein will buy a little time, dancing around in the pocket, surveys the field. And from behind, he's driven down. Well, a coverage sack, it gives Jonathan Thompson the TFL and a loss of 9. The Cincinnati secondary up to the challenge.
As is Jonathan Thompson. He's playing in the middle of that defense, spying the quarterback. 3-man rush, but he gets to be the 4th rusher. He misses it, but Eli Holstein has to have the wherewithal to know that that guy that just went by you, he may be standing up to try and get you. So great job by Thompson. Need more awareness from Holstein.
1 step forward, 2 steps back. Second and goal. All the way back at the 17. Holstein has some real estate. Makes 1 defender miss, make it 2. Dropped hard to the 12. A 5-yard gain on second and goal from the 17, and now 3rd and goal. And Nacho, you wonder if this is 4-down territory.
Yeah, very well might be. You're down by 3 scores. You haven't had very much offense. Defense hasn't played well either. You're in the red zone. They said they work on it 40 minutes every single Wednesday, nearly half of their practice. You need points here and not just 3.
Desmond Reed on the field. Bartholomew went in motion. Holstein looking his way, now the other. Out in the flats, pass is caught for the touchdown. It's Mumfield. Konate Mumfield, 2nd score of the season. And the Akron transfer has Pitt in position.
Konate Mumfield was voted captain by this team. There's 8-man coverage. You need time. You see him go outside, come back inside, nothing's there, go back outside. He has the time and the space to be able to outdo and out-leverage Kalen Carroll, the defensive back.
75 yards in 10 plays. The first touchdown of this game for Pitt. Ben Saul's on the field. Connects with the extra point. A 2-score game and a full quarter and change remaining. Plenty of time if you're a fan of the Panthers.
And what Cincinnati's going to want to do is they're going to want to run off some of that time. Early in the game, they were very effective in the run game. They threw some deep shots, but the run game is what worked. When Pitt just went and scored, you're Cincinnati, you're saying, I need to get back to that run game. They haven't been able to stop Corey Kiner, haven't been able to slow down our offensive line. So let's get back to that outside zone. Now, Pitt's going to say, okay, this is what they're going to do. They're going to try to run the ball. One of our edge defenders has to chase down the line of scrimmage and make a stop to get into a 2nd and 12 rather than a 2nd and 4 or 5.
U.S. Open Women's Championship match is headed your way today, 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific on ESPN, also on the app. American Jess Pegula in her first Grand Slam final takes on Aryna Sabalenka, who's in her 2nd straight U.S. Open final. She lost to American Coco Gauff last year. A great match. All underway beginning at 4 Eastern on ESPN. Brand new ball game. You can feel it from our broadcast position. This crowd getting antsy. Panthers showing us something on offense for the first time on that last possession. The next question is, how can the Pitt defense slow down Brendan Sorsby? Wilson upended crossing the 20, driven down. We'll check in again with Kevin Connors.
Yeah, and Roy, Texas is pouring it on in Ann Arbor. Trevor Maddich, this is Quinn Ewers hooking up with Jaden Blue.
Yeah, the defense got it.
Longhorns pouring it on. Acho. Sam Taylor, I'm Roy, back here with the Bearcats. And I think a lot of people thought that was possible today. To see it happen against the defending national champions is something different.
Michigan's lost so much. Offensively, their starting 5 offensive linemen are all in the NFL. They lost their quarterback. They lost their running back, at least their starting running back. New defensive staff. And so that's what we're seeing in that game.
Big House is quiet for the moment. Panthers sensing something defensively. A mouthpiece goes flying. Braylon Lovelace brings down Corey Kiner. No gain on the play.
Roy, people talk oftentimes about the fourth quarter as the clock continues to wind down. Looks like they're going to let the clock go to the fourth quarter. That's when all the offseason conditioning and the weight room work and the mental fortitude matters. People throw their 4s up, and that matters. But if you can get some momentum in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden it goes from a 2-score game to a 1-score game, and it becomes a game again. And so this is when the mental fortitude matters for both teams. What do you do in the fourth quarter of every game?
End of the third quarter.
We're back inside Nippert Stadium, Cincinnati, with a 27-13 lead. Coach Satterfield, how has your offense found success against Pitt's pressure?
Well, Sorsby's doing a good job of getting rid of the football and the pressure. That's a ton of pressure all game long. And Corey Kiner's running hard in the run game.
How do you close it out in the fourth?
Well, we got to go score a touchdown. Pitt's offense is fast-paced. They do a good job of moving the football. We got to score touchdowns in the fourth.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Second down to 10 to open the fourth quarter. Corey Kiner dragged down. Already over 100 yards rushing. Now with 18 carries, 26 more added to the tally. He's approaching $130 on the ground today, Acho.
And that was a great block by D'Artagnan Tinsley. You see him on the offensive line. He holds the inside and allows Kiner to get through that hole. That was wide open. Nothing needed to happen outside of a great blocking by Tinsley up front.
Third run of 25 yards or longer today, and Kiner now at $132. Thought about running the reverse. They somehow got it back to Sorsby. And looking for Royer. That pass out of bounds. Well, Jimmy Scott tried to blow that whole play up and nearly did. It's a complicated 2nd and 10 after all of that.
They actually went over this play in practice. Now, they did it a little bit closer to the 40-yard line, but they would hand it off, pitch it, and throw it back to the quarterback. But they ran it to the opposite side. Jimmy Scott, who was on the right side of that line of scrimmage, blew up the play, and heads up play, at least by Sorsby, of getting it off before taking a sack.
Sorsby on second down. Now the Bearcats moving away from the ground game here. And with a 2-touchdown lead, the clock potentially your friend. Bearcats will stop it twice on consecutive incompletions.
It's not even that only that the clock is your friend. It's that your running game has been so effective. All you're trying to do is continue to get first downs and win. You can win on the ground. You don't have to score a touchdown like Coach Satterfield said through the air. Give it to Kiner, hand the ball off, let the clock run, bleed it out, but win the game that way. Third down, you have to pass it.
Turner lines up in the slot. Pryor, the running back. Here's the screen, and it's incomplete. Turner right through the midst. Would have been a tall task to get first down yardage on that play. 3 straight incompletions. Pitt will get the football back with an eternity left here in the fourth quarter.
And with some momentum. The momentum comes from the score on offense, but the defense saying, hey, we got to stop. No matter if it was Sorsby's fault overthrowing the ball, but we got a stop. Go to the sideline, you tell your offense, hey, go score for us, we'll stop them again. That's where this momentum happens. And oh, by the way, Des Reed is back there punt returning, scored a touchdown last week.
First punt for the Bearcats since their first possession of the game. Reed will watch it bounce. No return as it's down inside the 20 by Jonathan Thompson. Punt of 35 as we take a look at this week's college football rankings, brought to you by Verbo. And the Georgia Bulldogs did a number a week ago against Clemson down in Atlanta. Currently a 2-touchdown lead against Tennessee Tech. And maybe the one that stands out, Penn State and Bowling Green right now in a tussle at State College.
Penn State's got a new offensive coordinator. The offense has been fine, but the defense is what's struggling. Manny Diaz is now at Duke, their defensive coordinator, so they got to wake up on that defensive side of the ball.
Andy Kotelnicki, the new OC for James Franklin, to put some more points on the board to come back against Bowling Green. Holstein back on the field. And on the ground, making something happen with his legs. Stopped at the 25, a 5-yard gain. Brian Sims the third, the tackle. It's interesting, Holstein without any downfield targets available. His OC Cade Bell calling the plays. He's had to use his legs a little bit more this week. Now 34 yards rushing. How about that cut by Reed? First down carry. Gallops ahead to the 39. Des Reed now over 100 yards. Gain of 16.
And if I'm Pitt, I start to hurry up the tempo. We've gone a little bit slow early. Now you hurry up the tempo, keep the defense off balance.
Approaching 13 minutes to play. Numeral 0 has it again. Reed. Another first down into Cincinnati territory. Boy, on the ground through the air. Des Reed will get a breather. Look out, ACC, when he gets going. Matt Narduzzi told us, pound for pound, he's the toughest football player he's been around, even in pass pro. Holstein sensing the pocket breaking down again, dumps it off to the tight end Overman. First catch for Jake Overman, third of the season. Derek Canteen stopped him after a gain of 9.
Great pressure by Dante Corleone, and now's the time where you change that tempo, change the pace. Go fast, go slow, keep them off balance. You sub, you switch it. That's what you need.
Seven-man front for the Bearcats. Holstein's got to hurry in the flats. Overman stopped short, and he's going to lose to Mekhi Miller. How about that play in open space?
Beautiful tackle because it was second and short. Now it's third and short. Third down is money down. We talk about it all the time, but that tackle in the open field created a critical third down by Mekhi Miller. Great job, Mekhi, on that tackle, getting the legs of the offensive player.
Inside give, Derek Davis, stopped by Corleone. No gain on the play, it's fourth down.
One thing leads to another. You see the stop by Mekhi Miller, and then Dante Corleone is just punishing the offensive line. He's pushing them in the backfield and saying, I'll have my way with you. What stands out to me is his hand placement. His hands are inside. He sheds the blocker and makes the tackle.
Panthers 0 for 1 on fourth down. Obviously, we'll go for it here, trailing by 2 touchdowns. Analytics tell you to go. Holstein has a man wide open. Reeled in by Mumfield. On fourth down, it's a touchdown. A big-time moment early in this season for the Pitt Panthers.
And a big-time moment for Konate Mutfield. This is his second touchdown this game. He had 2 last year versus Cincinnati, so he knows how to score against this defense.
Eli Holstein remains on the field. The Panthers will go for 2. The latest trend in the NFL, now in college, trailing by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. You reach that moment where you have a better chance to win by going for 2 in this circumstance. More on that in a minute. Corleone took his time to get off the playing surface. A one-possession game. Back of the end zone, incomplete. Holstein sold it. Kenny Johnson could not corral it. And it remains an 8-point affair.
Konate Muckfield found the end zone again. There was a busted coverage on the back end. He gets into the end zone, scores his second touchdown of the game. Arm up, it's me. And then Eli Holstein had Kenny Johnson wide open in the backfield. Ran that Tim Tebow play, unfortunately, a little bit wide.
Touchdown on 4th and 2 moments ago makes it a one-possession game for the first time since early in our first quarter. We go back to the 2-point play, and you ask yourself, trailing by 8, why wouldn't you kick the PAT, make it a 7-point contest, a touchdown, and one more extra point would tie it up? The analytics, the metrics, they've done the research on this. It started in the NFL in the 4th quarter at a certain time frame, trailing by 14. When you get that touchdown, the analytics tell you your win percentage goes up by attempting the 2-point play, because the numbers suggest you will convert at least one of 2 2-point opportunities. If you hit the first one, the chances there later to win the game outright, avoiding overtime, as we check in again with KC back in the studio.
All right, Roy, Penn State only up 3 on Bowling Green. Trevor, when Nicholas Singleton breaks one.
And he's got the speed to take it to the house. This is expected. What's not expected is that this is all they really tried to do. They haven't tried to throw very much in this game.
10-point game in the 4th, Roy.
10-point game in Happy Valley, a one-possession game here in the Queen City with Sam Acho and Taylor Davis. I am Roy Philpott, and this one has started to tighten up in the last 10 minutes of game time. Bearcats get it back, a 1-score game. Open is Henderson just for a moment, and that's enough for another first down for the Bearcats. Gain of 12.
So I understand the pass early, but if I'm Cincinnati, I still want to lean on my run game. Get a pass early, spread them out, let them know you're not going to run it every single play, but get back to Corey Kiner, get back to the run game, get back to not only bleeding the clock, but getting first downs.
Acho, if you were a head coach, would you subscribe to all the numbers I just threw at you? The winning percentage goes up when you go for 2, trailing by 14 after you score that first touchdown.
I subscribe to the momentum. There's momentum on Pitt's side, so you know you're going to score again. That's why I have no issues with them going for 2.
4 straight passing plays for Cincinnati. Now on the ground, Chance Williams. Rolls the dice ahead to the 40.
If I'm Pitt, you scored on your last 2 possessions. You have a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence. So even though analytics may say go, more so I'm saying, hey, I trust my offense, even if we don't get this, to go get another score and get a 2-point conversion.
And the play was there. It simply wasn't executed.
The play was wide open.
Callan Auburn and Jordan Hare coming up when we're done at Nippert. Second and 6. Williams lasso down. A 1-yard gain. Brandon George. And a very big play coming up for both sides.
3rd and 4. And usually offenses say, okay, 3rd and 3 to 6, we have our certain types of plays we like to run. 3rd and 4, in this situation, you have an option both to run it and to pass it based off your effectiveness. Corey Kiner's back in the game. That's definitely open if you want it.
I'm also thinking about number 11 potentially on a play like this. As a lead blocker, as a pass catcher, Cincinnati 7 of 13 on 3rd down today. There's Joe Royer. Back to the air, and sack! Tossed down to the 30, Rasheem Biles. And the Panthers' pressure gets home a loss of 9.
Big play, Biles. 6'1", 215 sophomore out of Columbus, Ohio. Comes off of the edge, unblocked. That's what this Pitt defense does, but that's not the only play that Rasheem Biles has made. He made 3 huge stops in the first half to slow down the Cincinnati run game. So Biles is showing up big.
You think back to his career, the block kicks, now that money position, and Pat Narduzzi's, Randy Bates defense comes up clutch. And a brilliant punt will be whistled dead inside the 7. Aaron Turner downed it in a net of 62 yards. Pitt gets it back with a chance to tie when we come back.
12-team college football playoff is here. The first round kicks off on campus December 20th. From there, the playoff continues in a bracket format, culminating with the national championship game on January 20th, only on ESPN.
It's a new season and a new 12-team college football playoff. Of course, the 5 highest-ranked conference champions get the automatic bid. The 4 highest-ranked title winners receive first-round byes. 7 at-large teams determined by the remaining highest-ranked teams by the selection committee. We've got home games in the playoff beginning on December 20th with seeds 5 through 8 hosting first-round games. What a sight that will be right before Christmas. Back here at Nippert. 1-possession game halfway home in the 4th. Holstein back on the field from his own goal line. And on the move, a strike delivered right at the line to gain. And an 11-yard pickup by Gavin Bartholomew. Well, a good start to this drive for the Panthers, who have scored on their last 2 possessions.
They're finding their confidence, they're finding their groove later than they wanted to.
And off to Reed, and a full head of steam tripped up, and he knew he could smell the end zone from some 75 yards away. A shoestring tackle by Jack Dingle. Second and 3. Reed's a big play waiting to happen. Crossing route is there. And that is enough for a first down. Sincere Lee, second catch. Feel the tempo. Cade Bell's offense starting to take over. And in the backfield, Dante Corleone. Acho, he's impacted this game in a number of ways today, especially trying to stuff that run game.
He started from the middle of the defense. He slid or shuffled all the way outside and came back inside. See him go around. That's a pass rush game, a run-stopping game. But it's hard to be 320 and move like that. That's what impresses me about him the most.
5 stops for number 2 in red and white. Holstein delivers another pass on target. Poppy Williams. 14 more. How did he hold on to that one?
Concentration, confidence, toughness by Raphael Williams. He was open on the first play of this series on a similar route. But right here, he accepts the contact, knows it's coming, holds on to the football. Those plays build confidence for the rest of your team.
Jordan Young lowered the shoulder and the boom. Poppy got right back up. And Corleone went down with an injury for a moment. Second time today we saw that. Remember the big play at the end of the half that gave Pittsburgh enough time to get that 53-yard field goal away.
And without Corleone on the field, this Pittsburgh offense may have even more time. The defense is known for being a bend but don't break defense, but we've seen them bust a couple coverages. We've seen people wide open. Mumpfield was a few times. Rafi Williams was earlier in this series. They're busting a few assignments on defense.
Mari Burns steps in to replace Corleone. Play action for Holstein. Incomplete to the tight end, Bartholomew. Well, you could feel that pressure coming from right behind him, and he got rid of it just at the right point in time.
And Eli Holstein, at this point in the game, about 6 minutes left, you're down by a score. Don't be afraid to use your legs. You've used them earlier in this series and even in this game. Get back to using your legs if they only bring 3.
Settled in nicely in the second half. Time across the middle. There goes Reed. One man to beat. And he reaches the end zone. A 56-yard scoring strike. Hello, Des Reed. And a 2-point conversion coming after the 93-yard drive in just over 2 minutes.
Every time Des Reed touches the ball, expect a big play to happen. He did it last week in their first game. He did it last year when he was at Western Carolina. He's a big play waiting to happen. Now comes that 2-point conversion. The analytics matter much more now after you missed the last one.
Crowd on its feet and a chance to tie it for Pitt. Holstein, backside pressure, and I don't think so. Eric Phillips. (27-25), and Phillips goes down after making the play of this game.
Eric Phillips is the unquestioned leader of this defense. His coach has talked about giving him the freedom and free reign to call plays for the defense. He's getting up now and walking off the field, but he's a big play machine. Here's Des Reed on the other side, gets the ball, finds the end zone. Because of his speed, his acceleration, and then Phillips with a big-time sack, keeping it a 2-point game. Lead Cincinnati.
Yeah, straight out the Lennox, that trap on for hours. Straight out the minutes, they calling up Deanna. Straight out the business, we take out the Cincinnati.
Pitt has scored on 3 consecutive drives, all ending in touchdowns. Trailing now by 2 in the Des Reed show in full force. About 239 yards of total offense. 22 touches overall, 17 on the ground, 5 through the air. And the touchdown that we all witnessed moments ago. 2-point conversion, no good, thanks to Eric Phillips. Bearcats will get it at their 25 as we check in again with KC.
Roy, great games going on right now, including in Stillwater. How about 21 unanswered for the Pokes? This is Brennan Presley.
They were trailing by 2 touchdowns at halftime, and in the fourth quarter, they just came back.
28-21 over on ESPN. Meantime, 20 non-offensive touchdowns in the Chris Kleiman era at K-State. Here's another Jack Fabris, the scoop and score.
And, you know, the defense needed to come up because the Kansas State offense has not been playing well. The defense couldn't stop Darian Mensah at quarterback, and this play was critical.
34-27, the Wildcats on top, Roy.
Well, the Cats, the Pokes, and the Panthers all rallying in this early window. Corey Kiner, the first touch. This all-important drive for Cincinnati, an 8-yard gain. Philip O'Brien Jr., the tackle. It's been 19 unanswered scored by Pitt to get back in it. At one point, Acho, they trailed 27-6 today.
And the simple formula for Cincinnati is feed Corey Kiner. There's no other answer, no other solution needed. Give him the rock. Last series, tried to pass the ball. He didn't need to do that. The series before, threw some passes. They haven't been able to stop Corey Kiner yet. If you're Cincinnati and want to win, feed the beast.
19 touches, 140 yards for the LSU transfer and Cincinnati native. Corey Kiner will fake it to him out in the flats. Jamoy Mays. Now the touchdown catch to get the scoring started way back in the first quarter. Come on, Lynham brought him down, but a 12-yard pickup, more importantly, a first down. The clock continues to tick.
And take advantage of that clock continuing to tick. No need to rush. No need to be too fast. Slow your pace down, slow your tempo down, lean on the run game, quarterback and running back.
Sorsby, Kiner, Xavier Henderson, all creating those big plays for Scott Satterfield's offense. Kiner now 13 yards shy of a new career high rushing yards in a single game. Cuts it back. And against the grain into plus territory. A 9-yard gain.
You know how when you play somebody, a certain team, you feel like, man, this is a pretty good matchup. That's what Corey Kiner feels every time he plays Pitt. Last year, he had a career high against Pitt. Right now, knocking on the door of another career high. He knows they love to rush up the field. He says, y'all go ahead and rush up the field. I'm just going to cut around you and make big plays.
These two teams once rivals in the old Big East Conference. Game last year up in Pittsburgh, kind of a similar feel. Cincinnati got out in front big early. Pittsburgh rallied late. They fell short in the comeback attempt, and now it's third down. The TFL, Nate Matlack and Kyle Lewis combined to make the stop. And a loss of a couple of yards here. Third down and 3, and arguably the play of this game coming right now.
And if I'm Cincinnati, I'm circling Joe Royer. I have to get him the ball. He's one of my most trusted receivers, tight ends. If I'm not running it, I'm giving it to Joe.
Tension in Nippert. Bearcats 1 for their last 8 on third down. Make it 1 for 9. The pressure got home. It was Brandon George. Laid out Brendan Sorsby. And the Panthers will get the football back with all 3 timeouts. The 2-minute timeout. And Pat Narduzzi loving life right now with a chance to steal one on the road.
And George made another play on this series. He had the critical pressure here a few series ago. He had that big time tackle. George is in the middle. He doesn't get blocked. He forces a quick throw. And now Konate Mumpfield is getting ready to return the punt. He muffed one last week. Expect this, we call it a plus 50 punt, so may not be a big return, but I'm watching him as he catches this one or lets it bounce.
Here's Mason Fletcher, will take his time. Into the end zone for the touchback.
We talk about the hidden yardage, and we've talked about it all game long. That was somewhat of a lazy play by Josh Minkins, by the defense. You see him, okay, you think Mumpfield's gonna fair catch. Let the other guys go tackle Mumpfield. You run to the end line of the goal line and be there when the ball gets there. That wasn't Minkins on that play. It looked like it might have been Amari Arnold, but that's a play when you're a gunner. You run straight to the end zone, especially in the plus 50 territory. Let the interior stop the returner. You go to the end line.
Holstein is heated up in the second half with 3 touchdown passes. Des Reed swallowed up and driven down by Jared Bartlett.
So as much as you want to go fast, there's no need to rush. All you need is a field goal. You're down by 3. You have the 2-minute timeout. You have your own 3 timeouts. You slow down in this situation.
Holstein will take what the defense gave him. Des Reed to the 25. Eric Phillips the tackle, and that brings us to the 2-minute timeout.
This is the 2-minute timeout.
That gives us a moment to pause and collect our breath. Come back with us. 2 minutes to go in a 2-point game.
Back and forth they go in Stillwater. Trevor, this is Talon Green to Luke Haas for the tie.
Now, this is a 3-play, 75-yard drive. 74 of them were 2 big pass plays.
28-28 the score right now over on ABC. Back to Roy and Sam.
Kevin, thank you. Here at Nippert Stadium, 3rd down, 4 to go in a 2-point game, 2 minutes remaining. Panthers on the comeback trail. Davis straight ahead and nowhere close. Jared Bartlett, the West Virginia transfer, the super senior, working his butt off in preseason camp and right there as well.
Where's Des Reed? That's my question. He's been your key guy for this entire second half. He's not out there.
Panthers with all 3 timeouts remaining. They'll go for it on 4th and 4, and it all comes down to this. Penalty marker flies in. And this could be a significant call. An early indication potentially against the Bearcats.
Delay of game. Defense, number 16, disconcerting signals. 5-yard penalty results in a first down.
This has been a point of emphasis for the referees on defenses saying move.
That penalty qualifies for a 10-second runoff, which Pitt has declined. The clock will start on the snap.
Or having an abrupt movement to try to cause the offense to move. Point of emphasis is being emphasized.
First down after the penalty yardage was marked off. Holstein again on the ground. Crossing the 35, 7-yard gain. And the Panthers utilize a timeout with 2 remaining.
Pat Narduzzi loves these situations. What do I mean by that? 2-minute situations. The reason he loves these situations is that he loves to work on his blitz package. But the benefit is that Cade Bell, offensive coordinator, gets a chance to work on his offense in 2 minutes. That's less than 2 minutes in either the first half or in the second half. Game on the line.
During the play, a defensive player's helmet came off. That qualifies for a 10-second runoff, which Pitt has declined. The clock will start on the snap.
Cade Bell told us they actually practice 2-minute every day so that his guys could go into these circumstances and hostile environments with confidence.
And the best teams I've been on, Taylor, to your point, we've practiced 2 minutes. We put a focus on it because usually most games come down to the last 2 minutes of the game. More reps in practice could equal success.
Panthers with 2 timeouts remaining. Des Reed ping-pongs off of 1 defender. Picks up the first down, a gain of 9.
Great block by Ryan Baer on that side, pulling around. The right tackle pulled around the lead for Des Reed. Looks like Reed is limping a little bit.
Under a minute to go. Play action Holstein. Heaves one deep down the field, and it's brought in for a first down and a lot more. Mumfield snuck behind the defense.
Bend, but don't break, but also don't break down. The defense is breaking down. That time, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, is allowing Mumfield to be wide open. He led the team in receptions last year, but this is not Mumfield. This is breakdown in coverage by young defenders on the back end.
A gain of 34, and just like that, Pitt is in field goal range. And the veteran Ben Sauls, the 5th-year senior, Tip City, Ohio native, located just 60 miles north of where we are at Nippert. Derek Davis inside the 15 to the 13. Jack Dingle brought him down. Clock at 40 seconds and ticking. Bearcats with 2 timeouts. You wonder if at some point they'd like to use those. Movement, no penalty marker yet. Eli Holstein fell down. Now Corleone was chasing him around. That'll be a loss of 6.
Timeout. Pitt, their second.
Acho, I believe Holstein thought that Cincinnati jumped across the line of scrimmage, and that could have been a free play.
And that's what he was thinking. He felt like it should have been a free play, but those Cincinnati jumps, there's a potential that they didn't actually cross the line of scrimmage. Sometimes if you're lined back far enough, even if you have a slight movement, you don't cross the line of scrimmage, so it wouldn't be a penalty. That's what it looks like in this situation. Holstein believes he has a free play. He, in fact, does it in this situation.
That is Pitt's first
3rd down and 10 coming up. Pitt down to its final timeout. Bearcats with 2 remaining. Remember, Ben Sauls connected from 53 yards out to end the first half to give Pitt a little bit of momentum into halftime. That is carried over into the second half. And number 90, it all come down to his right leg.
If I'm the offense, you have a field goal secure. You run the ball, get the ball where you want it, maybe middle of the field. If I'm defense, if they do decide to pass it, you got to bring pressure to see if you can either knock them out of field goal range or make the field goal that much harder. Offense, play it safe, run the rock.
Conservative call, as you would expect, needing just a field goal to take the lead.
Timeout. Cincinnati. Their second. 30 seconds.
Bearcats will use
Please set the game clock to 20
one of
seconds.
their timeouts. And on 4th down, a field goal attempt coming from Ben Sauls. Coming up next on ABC, South Carolina squares off against Kentucky. SEC opener in Lexington at 3:30 Eastern. Later tonight in primetime at 7:30 Eastern. Number 14 Tennessee, 24th ranked NC State. You can always watch them both as well on ESPN+. So it officially comes down to this. Ben Sauls on 4th and 8. Coming back to his home state. 2 for 2 today, connecting from 47 and 53. And the left-footed kicker. Getting set for a 35-yard effort. Snap is high, hold is down, kick on the way. And for the first time today, Pittsburgh has the lead against Cincinnati.
Oh my, have the tables turned. 22 unanswered points for Pitt. And the reason why they've been able to be so effective is twofold. Number one, they didn't abandon Eli Holstein, didn't make a switch in the first half. But number two, they gave the ball to their best player. Give the ball to Des Reed, and everything else happens.
Coach Narduzzi with his tight end, Gavin Bartholomew.
Pitt, number
Locked in
31,
arms.
is now wearing jersey number 84.
Ben Sauls knew it. What a feeling that has to be. Bearcats with a timeout remaining, 17 seconds left, so it's not over yet. Scott Satterfield and Cincinnati sideline in disbelief after the scoring barrage in the second half by Pitt. We've talked a lot today about the hidden yardage. How about Desmond Reed, the first player in Pitt history, 100 yards rushing and 100 yards receiving in the same game. Smallest player on the field, coming up huge. And a touchback gives us a moment. Check in again with Kevin Connors.
And Roy, a reminder, we've got a dynamite game coming up next. The sensational Cal back, Jaden Ott, will play on the Plains against a vastly improved Auburn team. That game coming up here in 2.5 minutes. Plus Brock Vandagriff, the Georgia transfer, making his second career start. 3 touchdowns a week ago. We've got South Carolina and Kentucky, the first game of the SEC season, Roy, coming up over on ABC.
Can't wait for it. 17 seconds remaining here in the Queen City. Cincinnati with a timeout to work with. And a long ways to go to get into field goal range for Carter Brown. Dump off is there. Hard hit out of bounds at the 30. Aaron Turner was hit hard by Rashad Battle. And just a gain of 5. Clock does stop with 12 seconds to go.
Time is the only thing that matters here. 12 seconds left, probably enough time for 3 plays. Short passes aren't going to cut it. You have to attack the middle of the field, get a first down and spike it, or attack the outside, get out of bounds, or use one of your timeouts.
Pittsburgh Panthers once trailed in this game 27-6. Sorsby by a little bit of time directing traffic, nearly falls down. Got to get rid of it. And he's brought down. Nate Matlack, the Kansas State transfer, with 1 second remaining.
Timeout. Cincinnati.
Sorsby.
So one thing you can't do in a situation like this is waste time. Sorsby, if it's not there, throw it away. Time is wasted. 1 second left. They're going to call a timeout. And usually this is when those hook and lateral plays start to happen. Get a formation, get out to the running back, start pitching it around to see if you can get to the end zone.
Third down, 1 second to go for Scott Satterfield's team. And look, he's had opportunities. This team had chances to put Pitt away. You go back to that one sequence, 3 straight incompletions with a 2-score advantage, trick play. Clock stops right here at the start of the fourth quarter. And since then, it has been all Panthers.
Timeout.
Now Pitt will utilize a timeout.
There's seconds. 30 seconds.
Now, Pat Narduzzi this week, our conversations with him and his staff, there's a level of excitement with the addition of Cade Bell calling plays on offense. And the new personnel defensively to match what they are known for, getting to the quarterback, bringing the quarterback down, creating pressure. They bring 6, 3 deep, 2 underneath. It's a trademark. It's not necessarily that Pitt is back to that now, but this would be a large statement, ACC versus Big 12. And for the turnaround of this program with that young man as well, Des Reed on offense leading the charge.
Huge confidence boost for this Pitt team if they can finish the game. The reason why is you face extreme adversity early in the game with a young quarterback. So if you can actually say, hey, we played our worst ball and found a way to win, build your confidence.
After consecutive timeouts, Sorsby underneath. Here comes the lateral back to Kiner. And that will do it. The comeback is complete. Javon McIntyre jumped on the loose football to seal the win for Pat Narduzzi and the Pitt Panthers. 28-27 the final. Pitt remains undefeated. The Bearcats fall to 1-1. What a game. What a fourth quarter as the Panthers find a way in the River City rivalry. 22 unanswered to get the job done, all in the second half on the road. Coming up right now, Cal and Auburn. Let's get you to Jordan.